Metaphysics is going to have to be the quote-unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely.
Totally and absolutely. We are back for another grandiose episode, The Cult of Dangerous Gentlemen. The greatest think tank ever invented, the greatest think tank ever assembled. Just in case you were wondering, no debate, that's what we are. And we're here for another deep dive into the absurdity of the three-dimensional simulation. Before we get started with the absurdity, how you brothers doing this week?
Awesome.
Awesome.
I'm not well.
Not well? What's going on, bro?
I'm not well. I just got back from seeing Sound of Freedom.
Oh shit.
It's not a feel-good movie.
Oh man.
Definitely not a feel good.
Okay, so before we get into what I was going to get into, there's a lot going on with this movie right now. You know what I'm going to do? I think I'm going to pull up the trailer. Maybe I'll just play the trailer on mute or something so we don't get dragged off the internet. But the Sound of Freedom. So before we even get started, Bumbaclot fair use. I don't want YouTube coming after us. I don't want YouTube coming after us for no sideways fuckery. This is fair use. It's the Sound of Freedom. It's a movie about rescuing children. For God's sakes, don't bother.
Directed by drunk Mel Gibson.
Oh, drunk Mel Gibson directed this?
I don't think he did.
Something. I think he produced it, right?
Oh,
I don't help fund it.
I could be wrong.
I know
I
he
seen
had
him
something
promoting
to do with
it. I seen him promoting it, and he looked drunk as hell promoting it.
Maybe he did fund it. Well, look, if you had to research the stuff that you have to research to be accurate to the source material, I can't see how you couldn't just be blitzed 24/7. You'd have to be wasted. You have to numb your senses. It's terrible. You get like an hour and a half, 2 hours of just kind of being anchored to the weight of the situation, and you get to kind of just wade through it for a little bit, and it just feels dark and heavy.
Yeah.
It's just heavy.
Give it a few weeks.
I mean, that's what it seems like. It doesn't seem like it'd be too much of a feel-good movie. It kind of has that vibe of what's the cartel movie with Benicio del Toro? With
Sicario.
Yeah, it seems like it's got that type of energy. Sicario, it doesn't let up. It doesn't give you any rainbow at the end of the movie. Like nothing. Everything is kind of just fucked up. Then this movie seems like that. But okay, so my thing is this, right? So is it me, or does anybody talking sideways about this movie, about Jim Caviezel, about the whole QAnon thing, like they're just adding all of this extra weight to this movie? Does it seem like they're just trying to, I mean, I don't want to point no fingers here, but does it seem like they're just trying to protect the structure of child trafficking? Is that me?
Who's complaining about it?
A lot of people.
Everyone.
That shows you how far removed I am from certain shit. To me, in my world, how could you complain about a movie about child abduction? Like I can't. So I don't know. I'm just blind to it, I guess. I don't know who's complaining about this shit.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of articles. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter. A lot of just I don't want to say leftists. Like, I don't want to get into the whole political thing about it, but the people who are aligning themselves on the right with Republicans, the MAGA folk, all of those people seem to love it, and they not love it like it's great, but you know, they think it's an important film. I think they're happy that this material is being shown in the light that it's being shown, you know, some hero going to rescue the kids. But a lot of people on the other side, they keep bringing up QAnon. One of the articles, now I couldn't find the article. It was from one of the more popular media sites, and I just had to backtrace it on my own to see if it actually existed. But I personally couldn't find the article. But I saw
Rolling Stone put out an article too.
Yeah, it might have been Rolling Stone, the one that said like it's a movie for QAnon conspiracy.
It's a QAnon
dads
hero
with brain
fantasy.
worms.
Yeah.
Like, I said, wait a minute, hold on. Okay. So Jesus makes a movie. Well, not Jesus, but Jesus stars in a movie about rescuing children from trafficking, from sex trafficking, and your take is because Jim Caviezel may or may not have been connected to some QAnon conspiracy theories in the past. You say that this movie is for people who have a hero fantasy, dads with brain worms who have a hero fantasy. Now, I don't hear anybody talking about brain worms and like Fast and Furious. They make $1 billion every time it comes out. Everybody loves it. You don't really complain about the demographic anymore. You just let them make their money. But if a guy makes a movie about helping children who are trapped in terrible situations, now we got to get into the actor's personal life and what he thinks about conspiracy. Like, why does that matter in the context of a movie about rescuing children?
They have to make everything political, but moreover than that, they tell on themselves. They let you know what their weak point is. Like, let's just go through the last couple of years, right? COVID's gonna kill everybody. You can't leave your house. It's gonna kill everybody. People started saying, hey, don't put people on respirators. I work in a hospital. The respirator's blowing out their lungs. Don't do that. Hey, I'm a doctor. I've been treating patients and having success with hydroxychloroquine, with ivermectin, and maybe it was just the feather in Dumbo's trunk, right? But it didn't harm anything. But the respirators were absolutely harming people. But they needed you to be afraid. So anybody that said, maybe this isn't deadly, maybe this isn't as bad as we think it is, maybe there's alternative treatments that aren't going to kill people like these respirators are. All of those people, not just respiratory techs, not just nurses that we're noticing, doctors, the highest level, you're practicing medicine. And not just doctors that are just in their residency. They're just starting out. Doctors that have been doctors for decades. They were all summarily silenced. And they didn't say why, because there was no data yet, right? There wasn't enough data to say whether something worked or didn't work. Nobody knew. But because these people were saying, hey, maybe there's something that makes it so that this isn't as bad as they're trying to make it out to be. Everybody got kicked off. Everybody was banned. Everybody was silenced. And then I think in hindsight, we can look back and say for certain, it had nothing to do with whether they cared about your health or not. It had nothing to do with whether they thought they could treat you or not, or if we were providing the best treatment. It was simply the narrative has to be you should be terrified. We need you terrified so we can get your compliance. That was it. And then somebody else came out relatively early. Not going to say his name. He is the Harry Potter dude of social media. But he said very early, hey, they've been studying these types of viruses.
Talking about that science wizard?
I'm not going to say anybody's name. You can go and do your own research.
Scientists are wizards.
I don't think it was a science wizard.
I'm
not sure of the guy's. I'm not sure of his name, but I'm pretty sure he warned us about psychopathic robots who were coming to sexually violate us.
Yeah, Alex Jones, Peter McCullough, Robert Malone. Let's just get it. Do what you do as thou wilt, YouTube. But
wizards destroy this planet on a daily basis.
But those people came out and they said, hey, they've been doing research in North Carolina on this kind of stuff. Other people came out very early. Hey, we've actually, people that work in customs, we've caught Chinese nationals getting on planes with a whole bunch of biological vials. Not just once, not just twice. It's been a thing. And there's a level 5 facility right where the outbreak happened. And all of those people, and again, this is before we have facts. Nothing has been researched.
All over again.
Dude, nothing has been researched so that anybody could say at that point, we know for sure yes, we know for sure nay. But the desired effect was, we need to control this narrative. Anybody that is stumbling into this sort of territory is going to have to be summarily banned. And in both instances, They turned out to be right on both of those instances. So when you're talking about something like this, with that being the prologue, the only thing I could think of is if the media is going out of their way, that is to bash the movie and say, oh, dude, I super duper promise. Look, I might have been wrong about the deadliness of COVID. Maybe it was in a biolab. Super duper sorry. My bad. But I super duper promise, even though 2 of our anchors got arrested for pedophilia and fucking a 9-year-old, listen, I promise you there's no child trafficking. All it does is just make me convinced, like, okay, I see how this game works. Whenever there's a group of people calling out exactly what the truth is, the media in an orchestrated fashion runs to protect the narrative at all costs. So I don't know for sure that it's just a QAnon conspiracy theory. I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see anything. But to just come off the knowledge of there was an island and a temple with a guy named Epstein who was getting blackmail data of people engaging in this sort of behavior. Yeah, that was underage kids being trafficked for sex. And the same news media that's telling us that movie's QAnon propaganda is the same media that silenced that story. Remember when it leaked, that lady from ABC was like, I had this story 3 years ago. They wouldn't let me run it. So it's kind of hard. Like if you're going to try to, and I'm open-minded, listen, I want to be convinced. I would much rather live in a world where there wasn't a coordinated, orchestrated effort by the most powerful and influential people in this realm of existence doing such horrible things behind closed doors. But I don't know what else I'm supposed to conclude other than if you were willing to cover up Epstein, it came to light that Epstein was absolutely a real thing, and then you're scrambling to talk about how bogus this movie is, even though it's literally based on a true story. That's the part that was so troubling, because everything they show you at the movie, I'm just going to spoil everything, who cares? At the very end of it, it's not a M. Night Shyamalan type of movie anyway. It doesn't matter. There's no twists. They show you the action. They show you the actual footage.
Oh no!
And you see the little kids, and you see them being walked off the boat, and you see the dude.
Like from the rescue.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes.
Gosh.
Yes. It's horrific. So I don't know, man. I feel like this weight of just darkness. I'm just this cloud. I'm still kind of processing it, but it's horrible. And yes, I thought the same thing when Rolling Stone put out that article. You know, the same thing about, hey, they're putting pizza boxes on the counting room in Michigan. Hey, they're finding ballots in the middle of the night. And what?
They tat up the kids.
The tattoos on the kid. Yeah. But I mean, you told me
PG-13.
Yeah, there's no cursing, there's nothing explicit, but the themes are dark. But listen, it doesn't need to be explicit. Everything it shows you is just enough to disturb you. It's just the premise.
It makes me want to watch it now. A PG-13 disturbing me.
Dude, it's the most emotionally disturbing movie I've ever seen.
Oh,
and I saw
God.
a kid get his head crushed in a Traumaville movie when a car ran over it.
Oh yeah.
Remember the big watermelon splatters?
Yeah, what's that movie? I don't know what that movie is, but like it's a bunch of rich people who got a bunch of like men, and I have to find that movie.
Oh, hunting men, like the hunting humans kind of thing.
They were doing like gay. It was like the weirdest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Salo.
I don't remember the name, but I'm pretty sure you can find pieces of it on YouTube. I don't know what they were smoking that day.
Dude, it's super disturbing, and it's in the context of, you told us COVID was deadly. Anybody that said it wasn't, this same coordinated effort took place. You said, oh no, absolutely, 81 million votes, the most in history. Footage comes out, poll watchers thrown out in Pennsylvania, pizza boxes covering the counting room in Michigan, ballots coming out in Georgia. all of these anomalies. Wisconsin, even though they're not talking about it, Wisconsin still has an active investigation by a person that was a former Supreme Court justice in that state that's going on because of the inconsistencies and the money that came out. Even though there was a news article, I think by USA Today, that was like how we fortified the election. And it goes into all of this stuff that's like morally questionable. Like, wait a minute, this sounds it sounds almost like you're admitting something funny happened. But the fact that there's this vehement, how dare you don't know what you're talking about, and they do this all the time, even when no facts are on the table, you see that there's an agenda being protected. That, hey, here is an unpopular conclusion to have. If you want to be cool, if you want to be welcomed into polite society, here's the official position that you need to think about XY chromosomes, about child trafficking, about the election, about COVID, about whether we should be fighting Ukraine. Like, that's what it is. It's the entrance fee into polite society. If not, you're basically relegating yourself to be like a pariah, to be ostracized out from the rest of the tribe. Like if you conclude these things, you're a bad person. And you see that the media narrative is there to make the effort to get that into people's psyche. So that's the part that's most disturbing to me, because if the past is prologue, then it of course it's true. Of course it's true. And
Did you see it? Did you see it in the theater?
Yeah, I saw it in theater.
When was the last time you went to the movies?
I don't think the last movie I went to was I can't remember. I can't.
Man, so it took this to get you to go to the movies. We see where you're at with entertainment.
No, my wife. I went to the movies with my wife like 2 weeks ago. It's just the movie was not memorable. I don't even remember.
How was it? How was the actual like filmmaking? Because I saw the trailer and I was just kind of like, I can appreciate the concept, but it just didn't feel like it was well made. Did it feel like a good movie? Was it like?
So there's a couple of things. So there's a couple of bars that most people are honest about. One is Christian movies, right? It's like,
my favorite, Caviezel especially.
Right. It's a Christian movie. So immediately there's kind of an acceptance for the sake of the messaging that there's going to be a drop in quality. That now maybe not Mel Gibson's Passion of the Christ, but if you watch any of that, like if you have any Christian friends that have showed you a Christian movie, like here's a movie with Christian values. It's just as entertaining as Hollywood. Those movies tend to be absolutely terrible. Like the quality is bad.
Think of Lifetime.
Left Behind.
Without the rape.
Yes, right. Like, and no, you don't understand. Kirk Cameron stars in it. You got to see it.
Yeah.
Great.
Right. This was way better than that. It wasn't.
Well, Mel Gibson directed it, so
There we go. 2 for 2.
So who was that? So, okay, so you must be right. And I didn't read the.
Mel Gibson.
I'll check.
Once it was over, I just got out of there, so I didn't even read the credits.
But
But I know.
Pizza? Did you go get pizza at a pizza parlor just to land it?
We did. We actually did. How did you know that?
Because Pizzagate, man, you might as well like go all the way.
But like the cinematography, like there wasn't any terrible acting. Like they did a good job. Like it never comes across as corny like a lot of Christian movies do. Yeah. There was some choices in the editing. Like if I'm really going to critique it, like some of the pacing was bad and some of the editing choices, like I didn't understand, like, but overall, because there's no real arc or no real, there's a couple of moments of suspense. There's a couple of moments of action, but it's really like if you're going to watch it for the entertainment factor, I don't think you'd be entertained.
Well, the hard part about, hey guys, by the way, thanks for having me. But the hard part for me,
we're informal. Just jump right in.
Yeah, the hard part for me is like it's already tainted with, the Mel Gibson. And again, I have no opinion about whether he's, who the media is.
Doobie has absolved him from the pack comments, and I've absolved him from all the "we started all the wars" comments. So
you already did that. Okay,
yeah,
he's got a clean slate as far as we're concerned.
Absolutely.
The blacks and the Jews have Mel Gibson's
definitely back. Tabula rasa. This says it's directed by somebody named Alejandro Monteverde, It does not
Right,
say
that's
Mel
the guy
Gibson.
that's going on the tour with
And
him.
Mel Gibson must have produced it then.
Yeah, he had to do something because
I'm sure he put up
He
some money.
promoted
He's
it.
like, tell the truth about the Jews. Get this out there. Here's $10 million. Make it happen. If I don't give it to you, my ex-wife's gonna get an alimony. Tell
watch
the
Right.
the
story.
promotion video. Like there's a promotion video with him, and he looks drunk, but he's there.
Because I think it was a Hispanic dude that's been on this press tour with Jim Caviezel. So I thought he was the director. So, but you and Doobie both said.
Well, you know what it was. I
it
just
might have
read
been
it.
Mel Gibson,
It was
so it
that
might be right.
it was the media. I guess he chimed in about the movie and it created a shitstorm. So he's not even involved. He just commented on it, which is what I was getting at. It's like whether we support him or not, most people would just kind of ignore it just because of him. You know what I mean? Like, and it's tough because of course we want the message to get out and we don't want to appease the bourgeoisie or whatever. But I feel like there's more tactical ways to have a bigger impact and not box it in as a Christian movie, not let Mel Gibson piss all over it. Like I want it to get out to more people and more people take it seriously. But this kind of film, as much as it's stirring, it'll be out of the news cycle in another 72 hours, and not a lot of people will be talking about it. If it was done by another group of people that were a little less biased, a little less Christian, it might land harder. But maybe
Wes
those
Anderson version.
So if Hollywood pedophiles made it,
Yeah.
if
exactly.
Hollywood
That's what I'm
pedophiles
saying.
would, I think they would have changed.
Because it's either or. It's either you're a Christian or you're a pedophile. If you're in Hollywood, it's definitely that black and white.
Diddlers do make better abusive movies.
I'm pretty sure there's a place where those two concentric circles overlap. Also, just
Yeah,
saying.
it's called Altar Boys.
Exactly. It's Catholicism.
Let's
Not to
get
be
the
a
altar
hater.
boys together and make this movie.
But I see the article now, but it just feels dirty. It's like it says Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms. The QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer.
It's because
but
it's got
here's the fact.
the Christian stigmata behind it.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
Right, and because Christians as a brand, just want to be very clear.
They're
Suck
the
in
dad
America.
shoe. They're the dad shoe of religion.
Right, so
The New
there's
Balance?
it's the same thing with the Catholic Church.
Yep.
I will always talk about your institution and the inordinate amount of power that it wields, completely contradictory to the scriptures it says it's based on. I will always point out the fact that they had the hugest pedophile ring and cover up in the history of the world, that they have their own state where they protected the records and never brought it to light. There was never any great reckoning that they knew it was going on. They could have brought it to light. They could have preserved the integrity of their operation, but that's not what power does. And if you're changing the dates and the times, and you're determining what king is going to rule over what European nation, and you have cathedrals covered in gold, I think you kind of, by their fruits you will know them. I kind of think you laid out what your value system is, and it has nothing to do with Jesus. So for the power structure itself, I'm always going to call a spade a spade. That doesn't mean there's not individual Catholics within that institution who haven't really read the Bible, who haven't really looked in. Right, and those people are decent people. They're too busy to figure out or research to kind of understand how they're being made merchandise out of, and how they're being a cog in the machine, and their resources and their attention and their devotion and time
Here's
is
another
empowering nefarious forces.
Here's another thought that bothered me a little too, is that if it was a documentary, I think it would be taken more seriously. If I'm going to be perfectly honest with you,
But it is. So here, but one
But
thing,
it's
real
not
quick.
though. It's a
So here's the
narrative with
facts.
actors.
It's a narrative with actors, but here's the fact. This dude really did work on a unit with Homeland Security tracking down pedophiles. He really did quit his job to go on this search that his organization wasn't willing to back, and this dude really did liberate 120 kids that were getting sex trafficked.
That's called the dramatization. It's like when you watch
Of course.
Unsolved Mysteries and they're showing like a remake of what happened in the room and the killing. It lacks gravitas for me. If it was a flat out documentary, because the acting portion and the kind of thespianism of it all has regalia attached to it, which makes it feel a little less like a little less gravity for me. Like if it was a flat out documentary, I would have wanted to watch it right away. But seeing, Jim Caviezel with the CSI lighting and like overacting. It's like, why did you guys feel the need to dress it up like this to get it off? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you really think this is going to be more impactful than like a hard-nosed, data-driven, archival footage type thing? You know what I'm saying?
It's probably easier to recoup your investment with this type of movie. If you make a documentary, you put it on Netflix, you know, it's like it probably hits harder. Maybe people will have fewer lanes to criticize it, but there's no money. Way for you to make money off that shit. Yeah.
Agreed. But it's been a number one. You know, it beat The Little Mermaid for like 2 weeks in a row.
That's because The Little Mermaid's black.
Out, boy.
That's just because The Little Mermaid's black.
Little Mermaid was black.
If she was still a white ginger, this movie would have no shot.
But she was thirsting for a white boy, man. Dr. Umar was upset about that.
That helps a little. But if she was still a white ginger, this movie would have no shot. No shot.
You know what? Listen, so that adds another dimension to the nefariousness, because Disney owned the rights to it and forced that movie just to sit. So like I keep hearing, it's all. Yes.
Wow, really?
My understanding is that the filming started 8 years ago.
What?
It was finished. Yes, it was finished 5 years ago. Look it up, and it just sat. And they had to get in this big legal battle because Disney refused to put it out, so they had to get the rights back. Now look, so this is where
refused to show a movie
about pedophile rings.
Okay,
So it's a little off-brand, though. It is a little off-brand. They can put it on the Disney Plus app right next to fucking Up.
It's off-brand.
They probably see the movie and was like, yo, the dig is up.
It's off-brand for the front of the house, not for back of the house.
But this is an institution that's been accused of sexualizing children as a part of its long-term business strategy. Justin Timberlake,
right.
Christina Aguilera, Britney Spears, you could look at her on Instagram right now. Right, she's clearly traumatized from whatever Disney put her through, and that seems to be the consistent rumor, is that, these people that work with kids and promote kids, by the time they turn to 18, it's like they were already ready to be turned out. Molly Cyrus too. So that kind of just adds a dimension to it. So if it's just about money, Disney, for the sake of adhering to what's clearly an agenda, what are we making this movie for? We're making this movie to make a point, and they've been bombing. They've been absolutely bombing, and so now this movie that they tried to shelf comes around and it blows their movie out of the water, and it was made for less. So you couldn't even make the argument like this is just the fallout of capitalism, right? Like, we'd love to tell people the truth about race and the truth about sex trafficking and the truth about politics or God or whatever. But the thing is, look, if we tell the truth, nobody's going to pay attention. I kind of think it's the opposite. We keep forcing an agenda that doesn't feel right. Wait, men can just be women and women can just be men. I don't know. That doesn't feel right. No, trust me. If we put it out as a movie, it's going to do great. And every last one of it bombs. But they keep promoting it and aggrandizing themselves like, oh, it won an award, and this, look what this person wrote about it. They wrote that it's really, really good, but they keep writing that it's really, really good, and the movie does terrible. And then the movie that does well, they're going out of their way to write about it, and it's doing really, really bad, which kind of makes it seem like I don't think you're a just umpire. Like, you're not just calling balls and strikes right down the middle, dude.
Definitely not. Yeah, I have a question, though.
Before you do that, I just want to read this just for posterity, right? Okay. The Sound of Freedom started filming back in 2015, with production wrapping up in 2018. It cost approximately $14 million to make, got caught up in red tape and acquisitions. The film was initially at 20th Century Fox until Disney purchased the company and shelved Sound of Freedom with no plans on releasing it. I hate to use the nefarious paintbrush here, but that sounds mad weird, bro.
Well, that leads into my question, though. So, like, I've been in Hollywood. You guys know that for going on 20 years, right? And I guess my question is, what is it, do you think? Because I've been out here and I've never been diddled. I've never been anywhere where somebody got diddled. I've never seen an actress. I know it happens, but I've never seen an actress have to get on the casting couch. And I've been in rooms, I've been around for a while. I haven't even heard any rumors of close friends experiencing that. I know people who are child actors. So for somebody who's in the business, it's kind of like hearing there's all these great whites in the pool, and I've never seen one. So I guess my question, I swim for a living. But I mean, I'm around a lot of folk, you know. But and that's not even my point. I guess the question I have is, why do you think that would be so prevalent in Hollywood outside of the witchcraft concept and the Illuminati? Why do you think children and pedophilia would be so popular in the film industry in particular? Why do you think that?
Why would it be in government? I mean, so
government makes more sense to me, though.
But let's think about Hollywood, though. Like at that time, at that era, men were marrying women at like 14, 13 years old, which is like a normal thing. So I think it's like it was normal for them to always do that. And it's
in
just
film,
now,
you mean? In film?
In film,
just
they've
in
always
general.
Had, in general, like they
when Hollywood first got started, it was average for men to marry 14-year-old
girls. Look at
girls.
Elvis. He had young ass like 12-year-olds.
But I mean, the thing is, you could say that about Nigeria or Uganda or Greece. It's not just film or even America. And in some countries, it's even younger. Like in Africa,
in Mexico, the age of consent is 12.
Exactly.
And France still got to that like 16, right?
But I guess the question I'm really leaning at, and I have my own feelings.
There's a couple of just to correct one thing, because the movie, and this is where the misrepresentation comes from, or the misunderstanding, and why it's just as soon as you hear the media squealing, right? It's your biggest clue to say, okay, there's something to this, because they did the same thing with Hebrews the Negroes, right? They did the exact same thing. They said this is anti-Semitic. I sat through 3 hours of that complete horseshit, and I will tell you, it is complete horseshit, and you can't find a more pro-black Jew than me. They don't exist.
But wasn't that the name of your first mixtape?
Hebrews the Negroes? I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
okay.
Don't go to that if and embarrass me. Don't you do it. But I sat through it, and I'm like, wait a minute. You said that this was about how Jews control the world and how, you know, and I just watched it. It's like, no, black people are Jews. This language and this language, they're kind of similar. I mean, the stretches that it was making was comical. But if you were somebody who felt like, I don't have a sense of pride, and I suspect that all of these white cave devils are white cave devils and are evil and are doing nefarious things. If you had that sense, and then somebody came along with you and made just these ridiculously, just poorly researched points about, hey, this word's kind of similar. And I mean, they even put in that clearly false thing about Hitler, right? Where Hitler was not that, okay, so just to be clear, wasn't pro-Hitler, but they supposedly quote Hitler, where it's like, don't you know that these are God's jewels? The Africans are the true jewels of God. They are the real Jews. So he said this right before, I guess, he took a cyanide pill, and somebody wrote it down. But if you just stop and think about it for a second, if Hitler knew that blacks were the real Jews, and his whole plan was to kill the Jews, as he stated, why didn't he invade Africa? It seems like...
Well, can I tell you, though, to your point, I have seen plenty of Jews in the pool, just so you know. I haven't seen any great whites.
No great whites, but...
No.
Right. So I sat through the movie, but because people, like, they banned it, Kyrie Irving wasn't allowed to play like, just look at the links that powerful people went to. Kyrie Irving, you're not allowed to think that you're Jews. Adam Silver is the head of an organization that plays a game where you put a ball through a peach basket. He's qualified to determine the genetic sequencing of the biblical people. He's the guy to research it. He makes the calls.
He looks like he's missing a few
chromosomes.
Yes,
for sure.
He looks like a pterodactyl.
So I look at that and say, but I could see how somebody who never did any research in ancient languages, never studied like biblical history or church history or how any of this information came to be, who simply just looked at that and already kind of has a chip on their shoulder and some preconceived notions, and you give a little bit of information that kind of sounds smart because it's completely foreign. I could see why people would rally behind that. It's like, yo, I feel more of a sense of pride. I feel more of a sense of purpose now. And the fact that you guys are attacking this makes me feel like it's true. But I watched it for myself. Nothing was in it. It's the same thing with this movie. Like, it's QAnon conspiracies. It's all about child trafficking that's going on. No, it's not. It's literally only about one story from one man about one situation. Like, it couldn't be more smaller in scope. Now, the dog-faced pony soldier, he ended up, because he's in film too, he ended up doing some documentary, some recording videos. I forget the name of the organization, but it consists of people who've survived sex trafficking. And they go and they speak and they educate and they tell, like, this is what happened to me, this is how it works. And there is data to show that, like, there's millions of people across the globe right now, children, tiny children, being sex trafficked. We know that for a fact.
It's a fact.
The movie doesn't go in there, doesn't talk about Hollywood, doesn't talk about any QAnon conspiracies. And that's why it's kind of slow and boring. Because it's
then
really,
why would the media or the Hollywood establishment care?
That's the question.
That's
what I'm bugging out
Why would they
about.
refuse to release the Epstein story when they had it? That lady got on ABC and said, I had this story 3 years ago. They wouldn't let me tell it.
Do you think it's just top down? The media is being used, like the people, like, you know,
we already
that are
know,
in.
though.
I think
It's
when
just
people
top down.
find out who's really involved in these things, it's gonna cause.
That's-
Can we just, and I didn't mean to cut you off, dude. Can we just admit, though, the we know for 100%, there's no debating about it. Like, we and especially in the circles that we run in, what do we tell each other in all of these hip hop circles, pro-black circles? Man, you know the government's evil, FBI's evil. You remember COINTELPRO? They were printing out false articles. They were pretending the Black Panthers were putting out coloring books for kids, telling them to murder cops. They were printing out false newspaper articles saying Eldridge said this about David and David said this about. We talk about that all the time, that the media played a role in putting out disinformation to destroy people that they wanted to destroy. But we feel like we went to sleep and we woke up. Oh no, the FBI is different now. The CNN is different now. The news is different now. Now they're telling us the truth. They were using the news against us back then. Maybe they used the news against us when they told us, hey, there was some Saudi Arabians that hit a plane. Why the fuck are we not already in Iraq? Why have we not invaded Iraq yet if Saudi Arabians hit our towers? So, like, we can go back and look in points of history and say, clearly, news organizations are an arm of the government. They're an apparatus and a tool of engineering consent and public opinion by the government. So I think at this point we can say for certain, like, if the news is going out of its way to speak to one thing or the other, it's at the behest of the same agencies that are telling us the election wasn't stolen, COVID wasn't made in the lab, we definitely didn't fund any of the research for COVID, and, you know, there's no sex trafficking. All those things are true. All those things are true. So the fact that the media is going out of their way to attack it baselessly, just like they went out of their way to attack one of the greatest documentaries of all time, only $49.99 on Amazon Prime, Hebrews the Negroes, clearly they're doing it because they were told to do it. They were told to do it. They have to do it.
Totally.
My question is, how come the people who are considered the elites, the ones who are at the top, they're making all the decisions, they're trying to hide all their terrible, despicable activities, why don't they understand that when they start trying to bury something, like totally against the public narrative of it, the people are watching the movie, they're like, yo, we love this. This is good that this hero went and rescued children from, I mean, who's not going to agree with that? Yeah, he rescued kids from child trafficking. That's awesome. They're like, no, cover it up and throw dirt on it. Don't you understand that covering it up and throwing dirt on it just makes you look more guilty? Why are they working so hard to bury it and talk shit about it? And why are they having people write articles talking about brain worms and like it just looks so stupid.
You think they were smarter than that, right?
Right,
you think
exactly.
Yeah.
You would
that's
think
a
they
great
know they're
point.
calling so much attention
boomers.
to themselves, trying to cover it all up and writing these ridiculous ass articles. I would have thought nothing about it. But when you say this movie is for dads with a hero fantasy and brainworm, just like, are you telling me that you don't like this movie about somebody stopping children from being sex trafficked? That's all I got from that.
But you're not brainwashed. So I can tell you the reason why they do it is because get on Twitter. It works. It works. Yeah. You have absolutely encountered and talked to someone that you cannot permeate their brain with facts. It does not matter. So what's really effective about this style of storytelling is that if they've already riled people up to be tribal, nobody is looking at information on its merits. Nobody's doing any research or thinking about it rationally.
It's just the alignment of the argument.
Right. This is what our tribe is supposed to conclude.
Right.
And look, here's someone who wrote something down.
You're right. You're totally right, man.
It's almost like magic. And that's what human beings, that's how we get pimped. We're constantly in search of an authoritative consciousness. Constantly. And so if we see something written down, or we're not really a thoughtful person, we don't know how to parse out knowledge and challenge things. Like, we just been told, hey, this guy wears a suit. He has an incredible set of hair. He sounds like he knows what he's talking about. He used a word I had to look up. If he tells me this is bullshit, I don't even need to see it. I know it's bullshit. And I think the majority of the public isn't aware. And it works both ways.
Right.
It works both ways. Like, Owen Benjamin was online saying, like, watching this movie isn't going to free any kids, right? Like, you guys know this isn't activism. You think it is, but it's just a pressure release valve. You're going to go and be like, oh, man, it's terrible they're trafficking kids. And then you're going to go right back to being a cog in Babylon, and nothing's going to change, because that's how the game works. And you're going to do it even more so because of the libs. The libs are telling you it's wrong. You know how they stole the election. You know QAnon is real. You know it. So it works both ways. And so whatever your tribal alignment is, somebody comes along, and that's the value of putting out the article. Not to change minds, but to shore up the people that you've already got on board, to make sure they're not going anywhere, and to give them something to continue to have them anchored. So I would never tell you, if you weren't interested in the message or the reality of this horror, this movie sucks. It's not a movie like you're gonna, like, you could just watch it and be like, that's like Lord of War. Yeah, it's about gun running. Yeah, but Man on Fire. Yeah, it's about drug cartels, and what goes on in other third world countries, getting kidnapped. You got some money to hold on. That's based on real shit, not real stories. Lord of War was based on some real shit, right? Maybe Man on Fire was based on some real shit. I don't remember any. But those are movies, whether you care about the premises being explored, you walk away like, yo, when he put the grenade up the dude's ass, that was great. That movie was fucking awesome. You don't walk away from this movie feeling awesome. You walk away from this movie just feeling disturbed. The whole time you watch it, it's like, you know what it is? It's a slow motion train wreck of child porn. Like, if child porn was liquidated and child abuse was like made into a pool, it's a swamp. And for an hour and 45 minutes, you walk through the swamp. You get it all over you. It gets in your mouth, it gets in your ears, and you just feel disgusted. Like it shows this scene where the dude starts looking through pictures. And this is how they did it clever with the PG-13. So first because he's going through the dude's phone, and he sees, like, oh, there's a bed. Oh, there's a kid lying on the bed. Oh, the kid looks scared. Oh, and then it stops showing
cut to
you
reaction.
What he's right.
Yeah,
and
that's how you do it.
You see his eyes water. You see him look horrified. And so they put that theme in there right up front, like right from the beginning, and it's continuously reiterated, because you kind of put you in this guy's shoes where, and like the very beginning, he's writing the report, because it's child porn. You can't look at it. But for the sake of, records and making the case or whatnot, so he has to watch it and describe everything to the T. Everything.
God.
That's his job, to watch it, to document it, to put these people away. And it starts off with one of the cops saying, he's like, dude, how many pedophiles have you put away? He's like, two.
What's the lifespan for a job like that?
I'm pretty sure 90% of them kill themselves. If you don't have some sort of semblance of like a relationship with God or spirituality, or there's a deeper purpose than just our molecules, there's no way you could delve through that. But he goes to me and says, look, how many pedophiles you put away? It's like 288. He's like, how many of these kids have you saved? And he just kind of looks down because he knows the number is 0. He's like, that's not our job. Like, our job is to take out the pedophiles. And he's like, because you know what he said in real life was like, it's a fucked up world, man. But he walks away, he's like, man, this world is really messed up.
Who was the kind of villain of it? Like, who was the actual, who did they find?
Well, listen, because I tried to give myself some semblance of like humor and escape because it was so difficult to watch. So I'm like, I put myself in the mind like it is a QAnon fantasy. Like, all of this shit has happened south of the border. Build that wall. The main villain is a black woman.
Oh, shit.
The hero is a blonde-haired, blue-eyed cop. So I'm like, yeah, there's some funny shit, and I really.
Speaking of great whites.
Holy shit! A black woman is the villain. That's how you pull it all together, right there. That's how you tie it all together.
She was a beauty queen, and what she would do is she would go to these poor kids in like Central America,
are villains,
like Honduras or whatever, right? And she goes there and she preys on the people's desperation. So she's like, oh, your kid is very attractive. I could probably get them into modeling. And then all the kids come and they get dropped off and say, okay, come back in 5 hours. We're going to do a photo shoot and da-da-da-da-da-da. And mom and dad come back and the kids are just gone. Damn. And they're already in another country by the time they get back. So they had this hustle where it was basically like a con game because this chick is really pretty. She was a former beauty queen. So when she says, hey, I'm a model, I can get your kid into modeling, that's the front. And you don't even, there's things this is what the most disturbing thing was. There's things that you're so blinded to if you don't have that level of evil within you that it takes a bit of your innocence away. Like I don't know if you remember that episode where we talked about, like, I was riding my bike around the neighborhood and I'm just by myself and this little girl is riding on the bicycle and she's like, hey, and I just acted like I didn't see her and keep riding the bike.
As you should.
Because it feels like, I'm like, I didn't mean to be mean to that girl. So I got home, I told my wife about it and I'm like, because I just feel like it would be weird. Like, what is a grown man talking to this little girl riding her bike around? Like, I felt like I was being rude.
Every man should keep riding their bike when a little girl's
but always listen, ignore children.
But here's the thing. But my wife already knows what time it was. And my wife was like, babe, nobody's gonna think that. It's like there's a natural instinct to protect little kids from strange men. He's like, whenever there's an operation, she was like, whenever there's an operation like that, it's a team. It's a woman. The woman is the one that gets the mom or whoever to feel okay. And that's the first thing I thought about when I saw this movie. I'm like, oh shit. Like, so when you're on that side of like the evil and how it operates, it gives you evil insight. You know what I mean?
That's
like
how Epstein moved for so long because he had Giselle.
Right, yeah.
Right.
After a while, he's gonna be the old man pervert. Only person who pulled it off great was your boy from Playboy. He pulled it off great.
Right?
Yeah, Hugh Hefner.
Couldn't she be white though, or was she actually a black woman in real life?
Yeah, she was. Well, you get into this thing. Godfrey talked about it. Like, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. So she was Colombian, right?
Yeah.
But
she's Hispanic.
Right.
No papi, not black. No papi.
Dude, if you talk it was because if you talk to some Puerto Ricans, like, nah, I'm Taino.
They'd
like,
be so like, my nigga, you're black.
Nah, don't force blackness on those people, bro.
Bro, they are. Come on, bro. You don't have to force nothing.
Nah, don't force blackness.
Come on, man.
This is what a lot of people don't understand about a lot of those, Central and South American countries. Like, people like Spain is in Europe. Like, there's no difference between a Spaniard and a Dutchman in terms of like of course there's in ethnicity or whatever, but we have this way of thinking about, oh no, the English and the Dutch, like, they were really white. Spaniards, they're Puerto Ricans, right? No, they're the same Europeans. They got banged by some Moors at some point, so they got a little more swarthiness. But they're still European. So when you go to these areas, that kind of thinking is in there, and there's absolutely race. I forget. I wish I could remember the expression.
Spain don't give a fuck about none of them.
My homegirl, who was,
I'm a Spaniard.
but there's a saying within a lot of Spanish communities about improving the race. I wish I could remember it in Spanish.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's like, you want to marry more of a European feature. Stay away from the Morenos. Like you want to get with like there's a very much a consciousness of about what they call improving the race.
Yeah,
so
Argentina is the perfect version of that.
Identify as black. So you could be black as Michael Blackson, but if you speak Spanish, when you talk to them,
I'm Hispanic.
Right, Dominican, Colombians, or whatever, if they're black, they're gonna be like, "Nah, I'm not black. I'm Spanish."
No, papi, no, papi.
Blanqueamiento.
Me not Negro, papi. Me not Negro. No,
Yeah,
right.
blanqueamiento means whitening the race.
Blanqueamiento.
I'm hyped up.
Yeah.
I just saw a very traumatic movie. Forgive me.
No, I feel you, bro. I mean, I'm
don't like diddlers,
I'm
man. It
torn.
should hype you up.
I'm torn. I kind of want to watch it, but at the same time, I don't want to watch it at all.
I'm
But,
not watching it.
Yeah, I probably won't either.
It just
to be
the
honest.
movie
need those
just
emotions.
it looks and feels like a hip cell phone case. You know those cell phone cases you wear on your hip?
Yeah.
So like that just feels like that, right? Or like razor blade eyeglasses. It's just like it's a little too, I don't know. But I mean the message, what's in there is important, but there's just an aesthetic to it that's like hard for me to get behind. I guess what I'm saying is pedophiles make better movies. That's all.
God damn.
That's the takeaway.
Well,
Have we
yeah,
already
it's gonna
named this
be-
episode because
Yeah, I might have
I
to
think
change the name of it.
Right.
Pedophiles make better movies. But it's just the helplessness of it all is what's turning me off, and because it's nothing you can do. Like, at least when we watched Sicario, we got to see Benicio del Toro murder the family of the people who murdered his family. But what is the comeuppance in here? Like, does the bad guy get a headshot? Does he get tortured with a fucking hot piece of metal up his ass, or anything creative? Or do they just like take the kids home and then he's like, all right, I'm done for the day? Like, it seems like such a small accomplishment in a world that you know is too big for anybody to really do anything about. And this is what we were talking about when we spoke with the Pony Soldier. It's like, what do you do? There's nothing you can do. You can't think, oh, vote for Donald Trump. Not that was his argument, but you can't think, oh, put a Republican in office instead of a Democrat. You can't think, oh, we're going to legislate this out of humanity. The only option you have is the shit that you seem to hate people doing. You got to throw Molotov cocktails and burn the whole shit down. If this really tracks the way people say it tracks, if it goes to the top, the richest people, the politicians, they're protected by the military, like, you know, whoever the guy is standing outside the door with the gun while the rich politician abuses a child, like, that guy gotta die too. So, like, are you ready to cleanse all of these people? And then what do? We just go back to Starbucks and shit? Like, what do you do with this world that's controlled, the entire infrastructure, the money, all of this shit is being controlled by people who have a thirst for children and adrenochrome? And what do you do with that? Other than mind your business and watch something on Netflix.
Well, I watched that Jared from Subway thing on HBO. That shit was super heartbreaking and gross. Did you know about?
Was he doing any diddling throughout his whole career?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah, okay. He was doing it to kids. They got the scary stuff is they have this woman who set him up with the FBI. She like
yeah. That's how you got caught.
Yeah, they were recording the phone conversations, and to hear this guy say the things he said was just like, what? How does somebody say that without, you know? There's like, it's that sociopathy or whatever. It's just. Maybe that's part of what I was asking about the Hollywood thing. I don't think it's Hollywood, it's power. You know, when you get to be that powerful, right, and you can have whatever you want.
It's a sociopath.
10 hookers and a 8-ball doesn't cut it anymore. You got to up the ante. It's got to be some other taboo shit to get you off. And that's just like the human appetite at some point, you know, left to its own devices. And that's not a justification. I think it's horrible.
It's free will.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
what happens when free will, you know.
Nah, I think I just heard you white knight Jared Fogle. That's what I heard.
Me?
I don't know.
You're out of your mind.
I'm joking.
Bro, it was.
No, I know you weren't defending it. Yeah,
no,
of course
it was troubling, man.
It's all troubling, and I think what happens is like, we forget that it's wheat and tares. Like, you always see it from the wheat perspective. Like, how could you say that? How could you do that? And we tend to project our consciousness onto other people, and it's hard. And that's why, and he dresses that in the movie, he's like, who can I talk to about this? Like, this isn't, you can't address this anywhere in polite conversation. So how can we even tackle this problem? Like, we're using government resources, we're trying to stop these people and save these kids, but this is an issue nobody wants to know anything about. because it's too troubling. It's too disturbing.
It's a bad situation too, because it's bad all around. Because like even like if you go to like adoption store, people who's been adopted and been through that system.
Right.
Oh yeah,
right.
all the way up.
Crazy
Yeah,
stories about
100%.
that.
People take. This is something that I saw on Twitter, that of course we all know about, but I had just never seen the equation laid out in this way so clear. They said the government can take your children if you become too poor to take care of them, but then they'll give your children to another family and then pay the family money for taking your child. Like, why won't they just give you the money to take care of your own kid? They'll take your kid from you and then adopt it out to somebody else, and then they pay the people who took your kid. And then you know how many people get abused through those systems, and kids end up missing. There were kids that were missing for 5 years because this family takes in 7, 8, 9 adopted kids, get all the money, and then they go to check on the kids one day. And it's like, how many kids did you adopt? 8. How many do you have right now? Well, 6. 2 of them I don't really know where they are. They're buried in the backyard somewhere. And you still collecting checks. And this shit goes. This is on the government's watch. This is not just some regular shit. So it's happening. The corruption, all of this shit is everywhere from top to bottom. So, I mean, really, to keep it all the way real, people are completely helpless to do anything about it, because to do anything about it means to disrupt your entire life. It means to take away all the comfort that you've worked hard for, all of the things that you've put in place to shield you from the terror of the outside world. You have to willingly tear all that down to really look at this. And then you have to wonder, even if people did decide to try to do something about it, could you? Like, Andre 3000, they got some shit that'll blow out our backs from where they stay at.
Where they stay at.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what's really going to go down if you say, and this is not like, oh, we want $20 an hour minimum wage, let's attack the government. No. We think you stole an election, let's attack the government. No. We're tired of you eating and murdering children. Let's burn this shit down. You think that's going to go any different? You think they're going to be like, yeah, you got us, you're right, we got to stop? No, they're going to treat you like anybody else who threatens the government.
And it's even more evil than that, because I don't think that they just want to do the evil. I think that there's been a nonstop campaign to make us partakers.
Like we're already partaking in it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing, because we identify it, like, because I had because the dude I went to go see it with, he's a devout Christian, and we had a conversation. I was like, I read, I listen to preachers every now and then, and I'm like, I never, because he was telling me, like, I go to church because I'm kind of used to doing it, but I really don't feel anything, and it's all bullshit, and they're always asking for money. I'm like, look, I was already there. Like, I get you, but I was like, I never hear a preacher say, like, we're going to mobilize, right? We're going to go make money for Jim Caviezel. You remember Jesus from The Passion? We got to go support this movie. We have to go support this movie. But where's that same mobilization of the Christian ethic to say, we're not buying Apple products till there's no more Foxconn?
Right.
We're not getting any electric cars until there's no longer kids in the Congo mining cobalt.
Yeah, because it's not directly attached to the perception of Christian values. That's why. And that's where that whole thing is so hard to stomach. If it's not very obviously a Christian thing, quote unquote, they won't support it. It's got to be labeled as Christian.
Well,
not all the time, by the way. Not all the time.
But here's the thing, and it's the same thing as the woke cult and the social media religion of, hey, I've said the right thing. Am I a good person now? It's so much easier to say, I'll go watch a movie and be entertained by someone I've already wanted to see and I like anyway, than to say, I'm going to lower my standard of living for the good of humanity because this phone got to me with blood on it, and I don't want a phone covered in blood. So I would rather do without the phone with my Christian brothers and sisters and have less convenience, less comfort, if it means it's going to create a better situation for a human being I've never even met, but I feel some sort of concept of universal brotherhood. I'd want to be the good Samaritan. I don't care if we're the same race or the same religion or share the same geography. Right. I just, so, like, and I was asking him, like, yeah, there's not this, we're not, I never hear anybody say, well, let's change. And it's kind of the same thing with this, right? Like, because the proximity that you live to Babylon, you get all the conveniences. You didn't go and fight the war and murder the people, but your house was built from the goods that we stole. So the state gives you all these conveniences. Hey, look, we built roads, we got cheap oil, we got electronics, everything's dirt cheap. Don't mind the exported misery across the globe of people whose countries had to been destroyed so we can get this oil, for people that are essentially slaves so we can get the products to market as cheap as possible. Don't mind the process, just enjoy the fruits of it and don't ask a lot of questions. So in the same way that as consumers that aren't conscious, we're kind of just as bad as the exploiters and the murderers, because
we got blood in our hands.
We absolutely do. Definitely. Think about what's being done with like sexuality, like just like, and look, and this is tough because the first time I saw porn was 10 years old, and it's been a bitch ever since. Shit. And I can tell you, and I'm not trying to say anything like, but like I had a point in my life where I had like a hard stop, like fucking never again. I can tell you what helped me get on that path was kind of what's going on in the world right now, making me ask kind of deeper moral and religious questions, but to understand that what are we and what part of us is God? It's our consciousness. You know, there's animals that are raped all the time. They don't act out with the level of trauma that humans do because we're holding God conscious in the meat suit. So you can scar God conscious in a way that animal conscious just can't. You know, you could beat a dog and like, I get it, like violence gets things in check, but in nature, there's not psychological abuse. Like you can psychologically abuse the dog because you're like a god to the dog, right? And you can manipulate it.
Yeah,
but
it takes away the alpha beta because the beta can manipulate the person to get what the alpha wants. That's what makes us different from the animals.
Well, but I think what makes us different than the animals is we have the knowledge of good and evil, which is judgment. We have a concept of, is this the right thing or not? There's something that weighs on our conscious that makes it different. So it's real easy for us to all show up, right? And be like, hey, I saw the movie. I supported Mel Gibson and his Jesus in this child trafficking QAnon thriller. I did my part. Am I a good person now? You know, the blood's not on my hands. Look how evil those child traffickers are. But it's like when you watch porn, all of them girls was violated. Like all of those girls.
It fucks with your head.
All of those girls were violated, and they're working out their trauma on camera. And even though you're not the one doing it, just think about, like, listen, it's gonna be fucked up, but just hear me out. When you see that girl, right? Like, oh yeah, she's taking the dick and da 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 da. You're seeing her in that moment. But if you start kind of putting the God goggles on, and you see her in her moment of trauma, like, holy shit, I'm watching a 13-year-old girl get molested by her stepfather, and I'm jerking off to it.
Yeah, man. Well, it's interesting, man. This concept is something I've actually been writing on a lot, and it's this thing called loops. And the idea is that anything we participate in, like energy moves in, like, it's cyclical, right? That's what the infinity sign is, the toroidal nature of the universe. It's all kind of circular. And anything we participate in, we are, like, if I right now go down to the bar and have a shot of tequila, I'm living a privileged life, right? I can catch a ride down there, Uber, drive. It's a clean experience. But I am participating in the same energy loop as the homeless man drinking Mad Dog 2020. It's the same energy. You know what I'm saying? And, like, that's what makes being a human. It's all connected. And I agree with you that spirit that dwells in the bones, in the flesh and bones, that's the Jesus thing, right? Fully God, fully man. That's what he was teaching. That's the cross section of God and human. And what we see is just primal animal behavior from these people.
Correct, right.
But when it's also tinged with the psychopathy, that's something else, because they're utilizing the quote unquote consciousness to manipulate them, to set traps for them. That's why it's different than seeing a lion rape or kill some other animal. It's like it isn't the same. They're not utilizing this like universal consciousness to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so as wielders of that, and I think that's really the connection to God, like not God's in the clouds and he's looking at us and he gets super upset when we masturbate. That's not it. And you see this a lot from religious people. Like, I don't do that. I don't do X, Y, or Z, therefore I'm good. And that's why you see a lot of religious people bash gay people. Because, like, I have never wanted to suck a dick or do butt stuff. And so since I'm never tempted by that, what better thing to rail against? But do you want to rail about how generous are you? How patient you are? Like, we're all fucked up. But the point where you get to, like, where you've truly overcome, like, where you're free of being a part of the sickness is like when you really get disgusted by it. But if you just think like, hey, I'm not going to do this, I'm just not, you're always going to do it. It's that you're already locked in. You're already addicted because of your body chemistry and your dopamine and how everything's wired. Like, it's so hard to break away from. But once you start seeing it as like, damn, I know this evil shit is going on. And I remember back in the day, you'd have to go spend $50-$60 for a VHS tape to get Giant Round Asses Part 5. You know, like, you go and you get it, like, oh, I got some porn, I had to pay for it, and da-da-da. Yeah. But now it's like, yo, you can have as much of it as you want for free. And you kind of think about it, it's like, what the fuck is the business model here? Like, we're all watching people fuck, and wait a minute, and so what is the situations for the fucking now? Like, oh no, we kidnapped this girl and we're gonna bang her in the back of the truck. Oh, she can't come up with her rent. Oh, look, your stepdaughter has noticed that mom is away. Oh, look, the student needs an A and she's got an F. How is she gonna get the A? So mentally it's like, come here with us. Just come here with us. Because what you're gonna say is, we're the evil ones and you're so good. But what we're going to be able to say is, look, it ain't about the body. If you looked at a woman to lust for her, you've already committed adultery in your heart. If you hate your brother, you're already a murderer. You can be like, well, I didn't pull the trigger, I didn't kill anybody. Yeah, but you hate people for no reason. You're a fucking hater. That's the beginning of murder. Like, just because you haven't acted it out in your flesh, you haven't recognized, like, yeah, you're infinite God consciousness. You're piloting flesh. And the flesh always wants the animal shit, but you're burdened with this knowledge of good and evil, and now you're trying to operate and stick to a moral code, and your body is like, when are we fucking? When are we murdering? Right. When are we eating? What are we doing?
In the Vatican, like the whole Catholic conundrum, right, where they're acting out sexually, there's another side of that coin. That piety and denial of shadow creates even more seedy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you don't like a lot of, I study the Kemetic, African mysticism, they believe in feeding that primal, but you do it intentionally, so you get a girl and y'all got kinks and you work those out in an intentional way. Because then what you're doing is you're transmuting the trauma from a subconscious program to a conscious one. And even this stuff with this movie, a lot of what that is unconscious, subconscious kind of like activity on behalf of these people that are actually acting out probably because they were traumatized or they were controlled. And it's this sick kind of cycle. But at least, and with all the shit I've talked about the movie, like, bless these people for even trying to throw up a flare. Whether I think it's a good movie or not, like, to spend $14 million and deal with it over a span of 10 years and put yourself out there. Whether I think Jim Caviezel's corny or not, I have to respect his resolve and conviction in what he believes.
He's been in other movies?
Yeah, he was in he's been in some big TV shows and.
Oh yeah, Person of Interest was fire.
Person of Interest, that's it.
I don't think I've seen him act at all. I've never watched him in the.
Like
he's mid.
He disappeared. Yeah.
He's mid. He's He's been on podcasts though, talking about he got struck by lightning during the.
Yeah, I seen bits of that. I wasn't interested.
Like, okay,
I'm out of here.
Okay, man.
Well, I mean, but it's also too because it's a little more. It's like if you make beats. Or how to rhyme, and somebody's like, "Hey, man, isn't this song good?" It's like, you don't want me to critique it, exactly. So it's a little bit more difficult for you being somebody who knows the intricacies of the art. You're going to dissect it in a different way. So I totally get that. But
it's a gift and a curse, man. I'm with you. Yeah.
Look, because I remember being able to hear beats and just thinking like that beat is great, and then once you start making your beats, it's like, this is the same drum pattern. That's the same snare. Like, once you hear it once, you're like, oh, I can recognize this drum break on every single beat when I hear it. Like, it takes away a little bit of the magic once you know how it works, for sure. So I'm not mad at you at all for just poo-pooing on the movie without seeing it. Like, I get it. Aesthetically, it didn't interest you, but I think the question that it brought up for me in looking at it is, like, when you talked about being intentional and kind of being evil and getting out the evilness, right, or working out the trauma, and there is something to be said by denying it, but that's the pitfall of religion, because if Christians really believed what they say that they believe, then you would have to determine that everything on planet Earth is fucked, including your mech stats, including the body that you're carrying around. You want to believe that you're just magically never going to struggle with any of these problems, as if you haven't spent decades building up appetites, or you didn't inherit them from your mom or your dad, or you didn't learn them because of the dysfunction that you grew up in. We're all carrying around the sickness and the evils of the world, and we all love to point at each other and judge each other like, I'm not as fucked up as you, I'm not as fucked up as you, but that's religion. If you really believe the shit that these powerful cathedral building, war justifying, king making, ruling over Europe, like the Catholic Church's role within history is completely at odds with what Jesus taught. You're supposed to be.
We're not about the barbecue.
They didn't get the memo that you're supposed to be surrendering power, not amassing it. If Jesus said, "My kingdom's not of this world," hey, Jesus, we're going to make you king. Not interested. I'm not here to amass power of this world. I just got taken up to the mountain. Satan told me, I'll give you any kingdom. I'll give you all the kingdoms of the world. They're all mine to give to whoever I want. It's pretty clear that any power structure on planet Earth, by its very nature, has to be corrupt. What it is if you're trying to be a moral person and amass power on planet Earth, you're the only dude at the track meet who's not on steroids.
Oh my dude, I was talking to the homie Bongo the other day about this, where I was saying it's expensive to be a good person. It really is. It costs to be moral, because the way the game is played, like, bro, and not to say I'm perfect, but man, I have worked in my integrity as long as I can, and I haven't really ended up with a lot to show for it. And I made the joke, like, I'm giving it the rest of the calendar year, and I'm gonna go get my ski mask out of storage, because there's moments where I'm just like, bruh, I think robbing and being unethical, that's what the simulation requires to amass wealth, and that's all built off of, and it's not all just because humans are innately bad, but the way that we see the universe, the mechanistic kind of entropy, materialism. Of course, why wouldn't you rob the fucking cabinets if nothing matters after this? If this is all there is, this is your one shot down the toboggan, this is it. Why wouldn't you pull out all the stops to try to amass as much as possible if you don't get to come back to Disneyland? You want to eat all the funnel cake.
Especially if that's what everybody else is doing, clearly.
Exactly. Yeah,
You're crippling yourself. It's an all-out gang war fight in the middle of the street, and you're standing on the sideline like, okay, I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to hit anybody with a chain. I'm not going to stab anyone in the back. And they're all out there like, okay, bring your ass out here and see what happens. We're going to bite you and stab you in the back and hit you with a chain. That's just what's going on in the world. And I've said many times, if you look at the world objectively, it doesn't take much to come to the conclusion that bad behavior is rewarded. It actually takes more mental gymnastics to think that it's an even playing ground, and you have just as much chance at three-dimensional success if you're good or if you're bad. It's just a random free-for-all. You never know what happens, and it's not even at all. If you look at the world, it kind of looks like if you're terrible enough in the right ways, like you can't just go outside and start hitting people in the head with a sledgehammer. Then you end up in jail.
There's rules to it.
Yeah, there's rules to it. Like if you can figure out a way, instead of killing somebody in public view with a sledgehammer, if I can figure out a way to put myself in position to dump toxic waste on a small village in Papua New Guinea and kill them, that might be something you can monetize and become a billionaire.
And to come full circle, that's really the genesis of religion. Bars. That was a bar. But also, it's we want to believe there's gotta be something after this. Cause all this fuck shit that I'm putting up with and I'm being what I know to be good on a deep molecular level. I know what right and wrong is, bro. Since I was very young, I knew I'm gonna go kick an old lady in the shin. I know that that's wrong. Nobody had to teach me that. My mom never sat me down like, hey, don't punch old ladies in the gizzard. You know, like nobody did that. And it's also speaking to what we've been talking about this whole time. You know, robbing kids of their innocence without nobody
Horrible
seeing
crime.
it is, but like think of maybe from the other side that's some sort of power move, right? And that's what Satanism or whatever you want to call it. Why are children so important? Because you're robbing God. You're robbing God as soon as he gets here. It's like pickpocketing God as soon as he gets to Earth. Children are God.
Those kids are instantly going to be like more on the evil side
Exactly.
than on the good side because they're
Right,
so
and again, when you wield the God consciousness, you have the power to inflict trauma that you just it's amplifying the level of evil. It just is. There's something even more sadistic about, like, I'm not just like, okay, I'm a lion. I ate a gazelle. I was hungry. It sucked for the gazelle, but it was for a couple of seconds, and I got what I needed. It wasn't, I'm going to kidnap you from your family and sell you for the next 10 years, 5 or 6 times a day. You know what I mean? Like, there's a level of sadisticness and trauma that creates that it's incapable of it. And I get what you're saying about wondering, well, is there anything? And the way that I've thought about it, and I remember I was talking to somebody about it who was like really, really mad at me. It was like, dude, you know, you should be more religious. I hate you. You made me not religious. I'm like, okay, I understand you want to blame me for that, but don't put that on me.
Was it
So I was like, okay, look, dude. I was like, listen, man. How does the Bible start out? It's like, in the beginning, God. Okay. Find any animal. Dogs can learn about 200, 250 words. We've taught gorillas how to do sign language. Choose any animal on the planet and get clarity that you can explain the concept of them, of eternity past where you didn't exist, but there was an eternal consciousness that you're now a part of. There's an eternal creation that you're a part of. Like, you can't do that without language and consciousness and humans to wield it. You just can't. You just can't. You can teach orcas how to capsize a boat and eat the goodies on board, but you can't talk about these high-level concepts. The very fact that you're having a struggle within yourself about right or wrong, the very fact that you're debating within yourself or that you have a concept of existence of your conscious being eternal outside of this physical body, that's if God isn't real, right? Do you really want to put everything on the idea that cells organized over billions of years to the point that the synapses and electricity is flowing, and it made this thing called consciousness where you're now fathoming that? Like, I don't know. That seems like a bigger leap than just something intrinsically within you letting you know, like, yeah, you're looking all over the place, but it's already in you. Like, you're not tapping into it, or you're just using it to make money on Earth, or you're just using it to construct arguments about, well, you know, we've looked at science and science hasn't found you, you must not exist. But it's like, but you still have this struggle with these concepts. Morality is still there, and you don't know where it comes from, and it doesn't seem to be any kind of concept that's not exclusive to humans. You just don't see that same struggle in animals. So
Speaking of that, did you see, and this is not quite on subject, but I don't want to forget it, that James Webb just proved that the universe is twice as old as we said it was? Did you see that? It's like
Christians are losing their minds.
It's official.
They're pissed about it.
Well, I mean, but that to your point, man, the hubris of humans to think that we're so special, right? And we are, obviously, when we compare like ourselves to a dog, we're definitely smarter, or at least more logical than a dog. But I think that's some of what this is too, is the lording of power, because you can. Like, I bet if you really ask someone, why did you do that to those children? The real deep answer deep in there was, because I have the power to do it and not get caught. That's what's really getting them off. I don't even think that it's because it's a little kid, and it is some of it, obviously, but it's the power of, you can't do anything about this. And that's the scariest part of humans, you know, and the thing, something I try to think of, and I know maybe you guys aren't really into chakras or whatever. I know it's kind of new age or whatever, but the third chakra,
so I respect it.
the sacral chakra, which is our stomach, our gut, that's where identity is formed and all of that. And like, we're in the third dimension. It's the third chakra. Like if the universe had a chakra system, we live in the third one, and that's duality. And that's a lot of where abuse, like sacral chakra, when it's not in alignment, is like really tough. And it's what we're seeing right now, you know, and it's bad. And Christians want to believe that they're in the fourth chakra, the heart. They really want to believe. And a lot of them are, man. A lot of the missions here in LA that take care of the homeless, some of the most beautiful organizations are Christian. And it's the ones that don't fly the Christian flag. They do the Christian things without needing to be seen.
Right. Do the work.
Exactly.
That's what Jesus
exactly.
wanted.
And I think, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, because I just been reading through everything again, and and it's something that kind of bothered me and that I looked at, and I don't know if you kind of had the same kind of ponderings, but you know, when you guys were talking about it's almost impossible unless you're going to be evil like the world is evil, you're handicapping yourself. You're just not going to be able to compete. That's just not how this thing is designed. But I think there's something within all of us where we kind of decide like, hey, this is my line. Like, this is what I want. This is my goal. This is my vision. This is what I want to do. But if I have to do X, Y, or Z to get it, then I'm out. I'm going to have a change of plans because I'm not willing to do that. And I think for some people, there is no line. There's just the end goal, and there's no kind of struggle within themselves about, does it harm anybody? Is it good for my soul? What is that just isn't there. Like, I've got a goal and I'm going to get to it. I think Doobie said it super on point. Psychopath, sociopath, whatever you want to call it.
It's like Lord of War. He was doing a job.
Right. I got to make money. I grew up poor. Yeah. I'm being a good son. Like, it is what it is. But, you know, like, I see all these Christians and they look just as Babylonian as everybody else. But they stand up and they say, yeah, but we figured out the real story and the real shit we can't see that's in the other realm that's governing this shit that we can. And everybody else is full of shit, but we're not. So we stand strong in that belief that, hey, we know the truth. But if I look at you, like, your church is very big. Your car is very nice. You look just as entranced and drunk off the fumes of Babylon as everybody else. But when I look at what your religion is supposed to be based on, I don't like. So if you look through the Synoptic Gospels, he goes up to Matthew. Hey, I know. What are you doing? I'm a tax collector. I collect taxes. Fuck that job. Let's go. He gets up and leaves. Peter, what are you doing? We're getting fish. Me and Andrew, we're getting some fish. And, you know, the Roman soldiers, you know, they need their salted fish so they can fight on the front lines. And, you know, we're doing our part. We're contributing to society. We're doing it. Yeah. Fuck that. Let's go. Get up. Let's go. And they all leave. And then he gets confronted by people saying, yo, hey, I kind of like that game you're spitting. That sounds great. Can I be a part of it? Sell all you have and give to the poor and follow me. Get rid of all your worldly possessions. Like, get rid of your status. Get rid of your wealth. Get rid of your convenience. Because you supposedly believe that God cursed you, right? The curse is you'll live by the sweat of your brow. Like, life's going to be hard. This is a hard existence, getting a shovel and digging a hole and planting a seed. And, like, this shit is, why can I be back, you know, why can't it be easy? Why can't it be easy? And the state comes along and says, no problem. We got some laws written down. We've got some organization. There's going to be some bloodshed. But listen, just trust us, and we promise you we're going to make things more convenient. We're going to start writing down bills of sale. We're going to start having divisions of labor. We're going to start listen, eventually we're going to get to handheld computers to watch porn and spaceships. Just hang in there. If you keep letting us do what we're doing, fuck this God and this you're going to be miserable and struggling. Our whole apparatus of progress, our whole animus behind progress is, how can we make things more convenient, faster, easier? Well, what about if it creates this problem, or now we could do things faster? Can we have more time back with our families? No. If it took you 40 hours to do 100 planks, now we'll just take 40 hours to do 1,000 planks. You can't have any of your time back with your family. We're just going to be more productive so we can make more money. It's never endless. But hey, you got air conditioning, you got a roof, you got entertainment. Like, the shit is lovely. But then if you actually look for these people who say, I've met the true and living God, I'm connected with him, you're not, and we got it, and I'm telling you, is Jesus. Is God in the flesh. That's Jesus. I'm telling you. All right, well, what do we do? Listen, just come to this church, pay money. We're building a new youth center. Make a donation. It's like, okay, but listen. So you told me to read this Bible thing, and I'm reading it. But every time I read it, I see nothing but people abandoning the goods of Babylon. So like when Bongo was saying, well, what do we do? Molotov cocktail, burn the whole thing down because they're all pedophiles. If Christians actually read their Bible, the revolution is in there.
Oh,
Jesus,
yeah.
But the thing is you wanted the revolution with, like Bongo says, the master's tools. Why isn't the Mashiach coming and killing everybody, right? Listen, the Romans killed us and made us their slaves, but hold on a minute. God's going to come and he's going to kill the Romans and then they're going to be our slaves. Like, wait a minute. That's the same story. You just want to be the abuser instead of the abused. Are you sure that's what you're getting from it? But the revolution Jesus outlined was like, look, if all of the soldiers refuse to do violence, if all of the fishermen refuse to gather fish for the soldiers, if all of the tax collectors refuse to exploit the poor, you got a handful of crusty, oppressive pedophiles with no humans willing to man the machinery. So the real revolution that's there is detach. And it's not just in the gospel, because when you get to Acts, the first church, it says they had all things in common. It says, what did they do? They sold all they had and they gave to the poor. If you study the origins of Christianity, the original name for Christians were Ebionites, which means the poor. So if you say sell all you have and give to the poor, you're talking about the people who are leaving Babylon. These are people who are saying, we know the system is fucked. We know the machine is evil. We know that the devil runs all the kingdoms of this world. So to follow Christ and to not be a part of the machine and all of the bloodshed and misery that it exports, you have to be willing to devalue money by considering it nothing. Because if everybody sold all they had and gave to the poor, there would be no poor. Money wouldn't mean anything. If nobody was willing to do violence, human beings couldn't impose their will on other people. But the reality is, the people that are in charge are the murderers. There was a bloodline of Cain and there was a bloodline of Seth. There's some humans who are like, hey, I don't want to murder anybody to get my way. And there's another people who are like, well, we got the steroids of human progress because we'll kill any motherfucker that gets in our way. So guess what? We're going to do shit our way. So how do gentle people who don't want to be murderers throw off the shackles of motherfuckers that are willing to kill everybody? Right. They're not going to kill for themselves. They're not going to grow their own food. They're not. What it takes is human beings who see this system for what it is and who say, I'm not throwing a Molotov cocktail. I'm going to peacefully divest my energy. And I'm going to take all of my people that I love and we're going to divest ourselves and we're going to be of one mind and one spirit. And for all these people that are out there preaching the Bible and holding up Christianity and saying they got it all figured out, you don't. Because if you had it all figured out and you really believed it, you wouldn't be on social media. We wouldn't know who you are because you'd be Amish. The Amish are the only people who are like, yeah, we prefer to just do our own thing. Yeah, we don't have electricity. I know we're weirdos, but I don't have a phone covered in blood. I don't have shoes covered in the pain of tiny achy hands. I don't have those things. So yeah, maybe I'm not amassing a lot of power, but I don't think that's what I'm here to do, is to amass a lot of power. So any religious idea, especially attached to Jesus and the Bible, that's telling you that the goal is to amass power is completely divorced from what's actually there. There's no Christians in the Gospels. There's no Christians in Acts who live any other way than divesting their energy from Babylon as much as possible and investing it into the immediate needs of the people that love them. And he even gives a parable. He's like, look, there was this man, he worked, he made barns, he stacked up a whole bunch of grain.
He said, look, I stacked millions and millions of fucking dollars. I'm just gonna sit back and enjoy an easy life. And it says, God says, you fucking idiot. Now Jesus said, if anybody says to his brother, you fool, you're in danger of hellfire. So God says, if you call your brother a fool, you might go to hell. That's what it says. Look, I didn't write it. Christians have to work that out. But God shows up to this dude. He's just working hard. He's just busting his butt. He's been laboring in Babylon. He's amassed all of the goods that Babylon promised. And God shows up and says, you fucking idiot. Tonight, your soul is required from you. Like, you don't get what this is. You're not here to amass wealth and power. You're here to be an observer of what is going on. And at the end of it, someone's going to bring up the fact, yeah, we traffic children, but you jerked off to the porn of the people that were fucked up by it. So, I mean, are you really that much better than us? It's like, nah, this whole thing is supposed to go up in flames. You cannot look at this world and the way it operates and conclude anything else, that the only real solution is Sephiroth summons Meteor and we start over again. This shit cannot go as is.
Well, here's by the way, that was incredible. That was an incredible
That was a great
thing.
ending. I loved it.
and I've all the long way I had to write notes down so I remembered. But like, here's a diamond bullet to the brain, and the word Christian isn't even a real thing. Like, Jesus wasn't a Christian. I don't mean to burst anybody's bubble. That was a concept that came much later and all of that. But like, the thing about Christianity, the way that I see it, and I was very involved, and you know that, Cavemanistan, we both were, is that it's a commodity. It's a commodity now. It's much more of a political movement that is usurped. Of course, they're not preaching the actual gospel. There are some people that would be considered doomsday preppers, probably, that are in some sort of underground bunker and all of that. But like, where this actually comes from, and I hate to always be this guy, it comes from Chem. The idea of Aser is the Christ consciousness character in the Kemetic way of thinking. But the way that the Cometians looked at it was this entire battle of good and evil and all these different spheres of existence, which eventually became the Kabbalah, which then eventually became Judaism, which then eventually became Christianity. That's why it's all related. Is the inner battle in Kemetic philosophy is to become Aser, not to worship Aser. And that's what Christians did, or Constantine very specifically, is turn Jesus into a thing you should worship, when if you're paying attention to Christ's teachings, he's telling you to be him, become the Christ. And he even says, you will do greater things than me. I'm not the shit. You can be the shit like I'm the shit. Like what I'm doing, you're supposed to take this and keep it moving. But it's so, and think of the irony that the main symbol of Christianity is the torture device that the Messiah died on. That you got to just respect whatever that energy is that did that. You have to tip your hat.
Got to get to Rome.
Yes, whatever.
Got to get to Rome.
Babylon, the devil, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You have, and here's the reality. Guess who does that? The Kemetic people. Because what does it say? My people perish for their lack of knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of self. Knowledge of the Aser within you is why you perish. When you put Aser outside, when you put Christ up on a cross, you already lost. Because you're just saying, I'll never live up to that ideal. So I get to, traffic kids. I get to preach bullshit. I can fly a private jet while my parishioners are dying of hunger and disease and all of that, right? And I'm with you. The world, bro, like, I try not to go too far into, woe is the world, because I really...
of course not. We wouldn't do this podcast if we waited right in that energy. Be like, fuck it, why are we doing anything?
I really believe that we can change things, but we can only change the outside world when we change ourselves first. And Christians are professionals at trying, and this is why Christianity in America are bedfellows. They're the same energy. They're the young boys on the block. Christianity is the youngest major world religion by like a lot, right? So America, a couple 100 years old, dictating to the rest of the fucking world. My homegirl was over. She's Mexican. Bro, the Incas, that shit is so old. and we tell them this is no longer your land. We're the young boys, but we got the big guns, right?
Yeah.
We got the weapons.
Duncan.
But that's why Christianity works so well with America, because it's the same hypnosis. It's the same thing. Like, we're gonna go police the world. Oh, word? Have you seen the bridges here? Have you seen our homeless problem? Have you looked at our economics? Have you looked at you want to go over there and fix them? Tell this ancient culture how to live? Hubris. You have so much hubris. It's insane.
It absolutely is. But the thing that Christians did with the Bible is the same thing that Jews did with the Bible. Where, like, you have all of this knowledge. You've got it down to when can you have sex with a 3-year-old? Like, you've written down every law. You shouldn't have sex with a goat. You need to shave all of your body hair before you cook Levitical barbecue. You've gotten everything down to the detail, but if God were to show up right in front of you, you'd fucking kill him. Like, you've totally missed the point. So when Jesus is challenging them, what do they come up to him and they're like, look, I can't give any money to my mom and dad because I'm giving it to the temple. It's like, wait a minute.
Right.
You think the point of all of these laws is to come up with an excuse to withhold good from another human being? You think that's how you're supposed to be interpreting the law? You've completely missed the point. And not to get on my Kanye shit, but there is certain group of people tend to be really good lawyers, make really great arguments that miss the moral point, but you win the argument. And so when he shows up and says, wait a minute, I'm in trouble for healing somebody on the Sabbath? You want me to honor God by sitting on my ass on the Sabbath instead of healing someone who's crippled? You think that's the point of it. So it's about missing the point. So Christians doing the same thing, right? You're supposed to be meek, rejecting power, being the salt of the earth, being servants to everyone around you. You're not supposed to be amassing power, but then you go back and look at a verse in Psalms and it says, ask of me and I'll give you the heathen for your inheritance. And you're like, I'm pretty sure this means God wants us to take their land. I'm pretty sure we're supposed to inherit it because we're Christians and God loves us. We're the real religion, right?
And the thing that got lost the most, and it's starting to kind of course correct now, was these rules, whether it's the 10 Commandments or not having sex until you have a bed with like a marriage of some sort. In the Kemetic philosophy and system is that it's much more about energy and purification of one's life force. It wasn't, the devil, you're doing the devil's work when you sleep with someone. No, it was that your sexual energy is the most creative thing in your body. It can make another human being. And if you know what you're doing, you can utilize that energy to make money, to build an empire. And as I believe in service, I'm on the path of service. I have been for a very long time. But I don't think it has to be. That was the one thing that Christianity did too, is it made meekness into weakness, when really Jesus, it was a fucking insurrectionist, bro. Jesus was an insurrectionist.
The book of John is Jan 6.
Yeah. I don't know about that, bro.
Oh yeah, Jesus was down for running up on them crackers at their city hall, for sure.
Definitely.
Except it was crackers running up on crackers.
That's what he did. That's what he did in the temple. That was Jan 6.
Oh yeah,
he ran up in the temple, ripped everything apart.
But like, I just watched that Hillsong documentary. I don't know if you guys have seen that. It's really interesting to watch the depravity of Christian organizations, because it's like, oh, y'all are on the same shit as Exxon. It's the same playbook.
Absolutely.
The exact same people carrying it out. And this is what I keep saying. Humans are going to human. No matter what configuration they occupy, no matter what book they follow, no matter what color garb they wear.
Look at Scientology.
It doesn't matter.
Completely made up.
It does not matter. The human is always the human.
Going on in there.
Which is why all of the political systems don't matter. The banners that the financial, none of it matters. None of it matters, whether we call it anarcho, whatever. It doesn't matter. If it's people in their current configuration running it, it has the exact same propensity for corruption. Always. No matter how you could write it down on a piece of paper. Everybody gets everything. There will be no hoarding. And then eventually somebody's going to figure out a way to start hoarding shit and making sure their friends eat really good and the people that they disagree with and don't like starve. This is just the way.
Clicking up.
This is just the way it works.
I do believe though, man, and I don't want to be the optimist group or anything, but I do believe we're in a painful kind of transition period right now, and Bongo and I have been having long conversations about this, just around frustration and feeling like there's no way out of this and it's only getting worse, and not super negative, but just realism. But back to the dimensionality. If we're in the third dimension and that is about duality, it's about witnessing good and evil and light and dark and blah blah blah. The fourth dimension, or time, is the heart chakra, which is where polarity is broken, where connectivity and interdependence and oneness becomes and you're seeing it happen. It's happening in real time, but we're at the very beginning of it. I do believe as a species we will course correct. Whether that happens before we lay waste to this whole thing, and I think it's poetic that Oppenheimer's getting ready to come out, like how fucking you give it up to Chris Nolan. He makes some wild movies, but the timing of this one to show what that man went through and how it actually destroyed his life having done that. That's where we are. We're in the post-atomic awareness age, knowing that really the most powerful things that we know of are the smallest things we observe. Subatomic quantum physics, all the things that are becoming more and more in the zeitgeist. And I do think things are going to get better. Now, this next stretch, I think until about 2026, astrologically, man, this has been one of the hardest years of my life. Straight up. And this has been really hard. And I'm like at my wit's end. But I have a deep-seated feeling, and maybe I'm delusional, that it is getting better. It's just we're in that just pulled the Band-Aid off. The wound has still got pus coming out of it, but we're finally getting oxygen on the wound. It's going to scab. And that's what we're seeing left and right. Hunter Biden, all this crazy shit, all the vaccine, all of this stuff. Think about this, bro. We still don't truly know what happened to Kennedy. We're going to have clear paperwork.
People are still alive.
We're going to have clear paperwork on all this vaccine shit soon. Like, look how much we've already learned about the corruption around the pandemic, and that shit was only 3 years ago.
It's because of the internet, though.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
There's access to all this.
Totally.
It's harder to hide. Like before, it was solid paper. And they shred it up. You never know anything.
Agreed.
But now the internet is there's so many like loose ends, and people could get through them, and people release them. So that's why I'm optimistic, because there's always like that. The information is coming out, and they're not killing everybody that's talking.
Yeah, what's crazy as hip hop dudes, all of the shit that kind of made you a far out like weirdo to just average everyday people.
It's just run of the mill,
right.
Just regular
run
shit now.
Of course the government does that. Yeah. Like you remember, like, hey, I read Behold a Pale Horse and the Majestic 12, and this dude said there was, and now they're just on TV like, yep, we got a craft, we found it. It's not from around here. And they just, and moving on. And so all of this stuff, like, it's in rapid fire succession. All of these things that it's like, no way. The government doesn't have an international global blackmailing operation involving sex with kids. It's not possible. Oh, not only is it possible, it's stylish, complete on a private island with a temple on it. It absolutely. Oh, wait, the government would never engineer. And now listen, I've been hearing you dudes, best believe it was AIDS, it was man-made. Yeah, I hear you, Razkaz, but no. Obviously, the government would never make a disease to kill people. Yeah, so COVID level 1, the first test trials were in North Carolina and government funded, and then Anthony Fauci found a way to say, look, it's illegal to fund it, but what if we build 20 bio labs in Ukraine and we just do the shit over there? I mean, then isn't it okay? Well, what if we have the Chinese do it? Or what? Like, all of this shit, like I said, it makes you a far out weirdo or whatever. When we were on that shit in the 90s, it's just accepted as like in the body of public discourses. Yeah, that's sort of kind of a thing. And now go ahead and check out this drive.
Well, yeah,
What
did you see
movie's
that?
on? What did
The
Little
Do-
Nas? Yeah.
Do you see that Dodgers game? Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I feel
Yeah,
like
man.
the only thing that I stick to now, and I guess it is a form of optimism, but like Ram Dass said, I can do nothing for you but work on myself, and you can do nothing for me but work on yourself. And I kind of think that that's the end all, be all to the entirety of this thing. I think internalizing, protecting your own peace, and being the best version of yourself that you can be, and trying to get as much as you can out of your experiences is the major step. Now, some of that is going to lead us to wanting to be philanthropists and wanting to be of more service to people, and like Legit is saying, wanting to care for the disabled, or however you apply yourself once you get to that place. But I've almost entirely, I mean, other than we do the podcast, we try to talk to people, we try to spread this idea of an alternative to what they're presenting us. But for the most part, now I don't think you can change people. I don't think you can really influence a whole lot. People just have to be aligned to be what they are and do what they want to do. And with the way the world is set up, I don't blame anybody for just, eating their ice cream and going to bed. Shit is crazy out here, bro. Like, they got such a chokehold on people just trying to survive, and then you look on the internet for 5 minutes and you're like, oh, there's a chick eating hot dogs on YouTube. She's getting $30,000 a month, and you're like, bro, fuck my life, bro. What the hell is going on? You can't make no sense out of it. It's completely absurd. So most people are using up almost all of the bandwidth they have just to survive. So if you can't take on other people's struggles, if you can't take on trying to fix the world, like I don't blame you one bit.
Me either.
Not
Well,
one.
and it's
bit.
not a flaw.
Not at all.
It's a function. It's a function. It's why it's built that way. And the other thing that to your point, Doobie, is it really is now. It's obvious, and I think it's always been this way, but we didn't understand it until the internet came.
Yeah, the mass.
It's always
really
been a
brought it.
game. It's always been a game of corralling attention and consciousness, whether that was through television, through music, through art, through sports. When you can corral attention, that's how you make money. That's why, like, a girl eating hot dogs, we know most of the people watching that are pretending that hot dog is their dick. Right? Or whatever. And it's like, well, I saw a girl just the other day. It's like a big topic. She's doing all these weird things and huffing like a dog on TikTok.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Bruh.
lick, thank you. Ice cream is good. Thank you.
Bruh,
That's
crazy.
from the anime. That used to be what people were watching. The anime guys were watching. So they would play these video games, and it would be an anime character, and it would go through all of these specific animations when you would do button commands. So if you push the up key, she says, oh yeah. And so if you push the up key 10 times, it's like, oh yeah. And so now humans are mimicking the anime video game. It's ridiculous. And she's making $5,000 a stream from it because a bunch of people are just dumping money on her to watch her do it. But if you go out and create something to try to help somebody, and then they're just like, nah, I'll watch 12 people will watch that.
Yeah, they're like, you're preaching. You're too preachy.
Yeah, you
Like,
think you're
excuse me,
you're
bro?
too awesome. So we're gonna go pay this girl who pretends to be an anime character and puts fucking foreign objects in random orifices. She's gonna get all my money.
To that point, man, like I just recently reached out to a connect I have at Warner Brothers, and I'm actively trying to get a deal. For the first time in my life, I'm like, all right, now's the time to get a record deal. And most people are like, why the fuck would you do it now? And it's because this is the first year. I think Uzi just went #1, but this is the first year that hip hop hasn't had a #1 single or a #1 album. And that's actually super encouraging to me, because that means that lower bass shit they've been doing, where you got to have a couple bodies to get a record deal, is dying off, because they haven't spent any time making legacy artists. And that is also proof that we are turning a corner. But it's gonna get like that girl doing that girl doing that, and people, just kind of being their most base self to make money. There's also people who are doing inspirational videos, caking off, making $50,000 a month, just spreading love, where before that wasn't really even a thing. So it's always, again, we're in the third dimension. It's always going to have polarity. There's always going to be the anime girl. There's always going to be the guy or the woman who's, preaching and sending people good vibes. And the real magic trick, which is what I'm working on now, and it mostly involves me taking care of my body, which is fucking strange. It's counterintuitive to think for me to get where I want to go, I have to start doing push-ups, because the creativity thing, I got it in the bag. The thing that's missing is activity, physical activity. And it's like, that's where we all are. What's the thing? You know what my son said to me, bro? He's only 17, and I've been feeling stuck. I was having a convo with him. I was like, man, I don't know what to do. I feel like everything I've tried to do hasn't worked. I literally don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to get evicted, blah, 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 this crazy shit. He goes, Dad, you know what the easiest way to figure out what to do when you don't know what to do? And I was like, what? He goes, do the thing you least want to do. And I was like, damn. And that's all I've been doing for 2 weeks, and I haven't felt this good in a year. It's like, oh, I don't want to jump in the ocean. Let me go jump in the ocean. Damn, I don't want to do push-ups. Do push-ups. I don't want to do a load of laundry. And that's where I think everybody is. Everybody's at a spot where it's like, what's the thing I'm hiding from? For me, it's deal with my taxes. Real normal, regular shit that I struggle with. I could build you a world in the computer right now. Tell me what you want. But if you wanted me to fix my taxes, I would crawl under my bed and cry.
No, I look, dude, because it was funny because you're like, I'm sorry to be the only optimist, but believe it or not, we are optimists, and you shouldn't have to apologize for being one. If you were the only one, we need some optimism at this stage in the game. But I can tell you, I definitely personally got to a really dark place, and that's why I tuned out a lot of stuff that I knew better about, just because I had to shut it off. Okay, I've spent my teenage years up through my 30s being a super conscious person, and I'm exhausted, and I keep finding people that are completely full of shit. I don't want to look at it anymore. I don't want to deal with it anymore. So I definitely closed off myself to a lot of ideas and patterns of thought that I see now. Like, hey, this is valuable, and this is what you need to do. And dude, what Bongo did in reaching out to us, it's a huge blessing that he was like, I'm ready. I've been nurturing this thing. I've been seeing this vision kind of dimly, but it's time to kind of put it in motion. You know what I mean? It's one of the things for the last 2 years that's had me anchored in any kind of positive conscious thing, to where now I do feel a lot more optimistic where I didn't before. And I didn't think, yeah.
To that point, yeah, real quick, and I know you have a thought. I'll shut up after. I do want to give Don his flowers, man.
Yes,
He's helped me. He's helped me in so many ways too, just by being himself, going out and tilling the earth, and being with his family and raising his seed. So yeah, man, definitely he's one of the people I talk to all the time just to get a birth. And when things are going bad for him, I'm like, damn, the world really is fucked up.
I appreciate y'all, man. I do. This is again, same thing like you just said. This is something that I was kind of cultivating by myself, but I understood that it's probably important to at least document it and talk about it. And it started off with us just talking on the phone a couple times a week to have these conversations, and I noticed how it helps me a lot too to vocalize it. And because when you're in your own head, it's one thing, but when you get to talk to other people about these ideas and you get charged up and you feel that energy welling up in yourself, it's like the same thing when I talk about permaculture. I feel the same way. It's like one of those signs that this is something that you're naturally passionate about, so you should be documenting the progress. You should be sharing with other people, and we've stumbled onto so much amazing shit by committing to having these conversations every week. I can see how the fruit can grow from it and how you can make real harvest from it. So it's just as important to me as it is to everybody else, and I'm glad we stuck to it this long, and I'm definitely starting to see some serious potential in how we crystallize this shit into something that can help us move into a higher iteration of what we're doing. I think we can reach more people. I think we can be of even more service to each other. I think, with this whole idea about buying a bigger piece of land and really acting this out in a way to where we can show an alternative. You know, I think it's important. You know what I mean? For our little piece of this experience that we do have control over, I think putting our energy into doing something that could be like just something for people to look at and be like, hey, well, let me try this as an alternative to everything else that's going on in the world. I think that shit is majorly important. So I appreciate y'all for sticking to this with me and helping me realize this idea and flesh it out some more, and, you know, pulling me out of my own ogre brain that I just, you know, because it's so easy when you look at what's going on outside and you hear what's going on the news and social media and shit like that. It's really easy to just turn this shit off and go in my backyard and plant some flowers and hang out in here with my lady and not give a fuck about nothing else that's going on. At least now I have a few threads that I know I can reach out to, and we can build these ideas, things that can actually improve things for all of us on a larger scale. So I feel like this shit's important. So I definitely appreciate y'all, man. Real shit.
1,000%. And really, there's wisdom in not being selfish about it, because it's really easy. Like, that's where I think the Amish fucked up. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, well, we're gonna do it, and we're out, and let the rest of it burn down. Like, I really love
that. Should be the name of this podcast. The Amish fucked up.
Because
it's real shit.
Because how selfish to do it and to get the joy of it and the peace of it and feel just way cleaner about the way you make your living. To know that the food I ate wasn't on the back of somebody that was exploited. You know what I mean? To not have a device that I can just see a woman getting railed at any second. Like, just like even when people are trying to cultivate and have relationships, you know what I mean? Like, if you try to do that within Babylon, it's next to impossible. The way they like these red pill dudes that are rising to prominence and everything, like, you're trying to cultivate a relationship in the most poisonous of environments for two human beings that have been completely raised by dysfunction.
Lot of stab dudes in relationships in a few years. Okay. Guarantee you.
So if you escape and you get your mind back and you get some of the filth off of you and you're just good and the people that you love are good, I think the most righteous thing you could do is like, hey, I'm not telling you to leave. You could stay there. I'm telling you they trying to rape angels, but you do you. You do what you want to do. I'm telling you that I and everybody I love has to get the fuck out of here to the biggest extent that we can. But I don't want to leave you high and dry, but I also feel no compulsion to preach to you. I'm not Noah. Get in the ark. It's about to rain. That's somebody's calling. It's not my calling. It's like, look, I love you. If you looking at this shit and seeing what if you looking at everything and think like, oh, this is great, this is what existence is supposed to be, this isn't for you. But if you looking at everything and saying something's terribly wrong, I'm not preaching at you, but I want to leave behind a blueprint.
That's the conversation in Buddhism around a bodhisattva and a private Buddha, or the Buddha that goes to nirvana, and all of the teachers now are saying there's no such thing as a private Buddha anymore, because that's why they go into the hills, bro. You know how much easier if I would have had my enlightenment and I didn't have a kid and I just decided to dip and go into the mountains and, you know, pick berries and shit. That's so that they can maintain their sanity. To us it seems crazy, like, oh my God, y'all are not gonna have sex and drink tequila. They're like, yeah, hell no, I'm gonna enjoy every moment as if it's my last.
With meth.
And there's no room. Exactly. There's no room for that now. You know, we have to shine a light and talk to people and say, like, hey, there's a way to live that doesn't involve, you know, despair every moment of the day. But it's hard, it's hard to do that when you're also in despair. You know, when money's tight, bro, it's hard to be Martin. You know, it's hard to be Malcolm when you ain't got no bread and you're just trying to survive and you're eating beans and rice. It's hard to be a leader when you're under the boot, you know what I'm saying, of the economics. But that's what all those great leaders did, from the Bible through, you know, the Quran, whatever. That's why those stories resonate so much with us.
That's what makes the work that much more important. Yep. Because everything is going against you. There's so much turbulence and so much uncertainty, but you still stick to it anyway. That's when it matters the most. You know what I mean? Like, if you up constantly, it's super easy to talk about those high principles and like, oh yeah, manifestation, son. All you got to do is want it, and it appears. Like, that's mad easy. But when the tide goes out,
right.
That's when shit really starts to matter. How you carry yourself, how you treat other people. Like, you start to show who you really are and who you really want to be, because the circumstances are not necessarily in your favor.
And that's the hero's kind of journey, right? And this is the last part I'll say on this, but the word hero comes from the word Heru, Heru, which in Egypt, that was Horus. But the thing about Heru is that he's the sixth sphere, and he's square in the middle. He's right between the higher, kind of mostly spiritual aspects of what it means to be a human. And then underneath is like Sebek and Herukuti and Geb and all, like Earth and all of that. The hero's journey, which what does that sound like? Does that not sound like the Christ, fully God, fully man? It's the same thing of like being able to hold sturdy and sit still under the Bodhi tree while being tempted, while being told you're going to die, while being told how old the universe is, while learning that there's child trafficking happening in your neighborhood, learning that this and that and this and that, and that outside world, that impulse response is just raining down hellfire and misery. And you can sit there and be like, word, I know, but I also know there's more. You know what I'm saying? I also know that there's a lot more going on than just that.
Yeah, dude.
And just think about how much more you could help cultivate righteous consciousness if your main aim wasn't just amassing extra trinkets.
Yes.
But think about how much pain and suffering you alleviate for people who do give a fuck, who do want to apply themselves and their energy to trying to sort out this madness that we're living through. If people sold all they had and gave to the poor, just think about if all these Christians, instead of building buildings, because Jesus preached outside, what if your priorities with all of this, a massive amount of wealth, you got these people slaving in Babylon, being cogs in the machine, going to work every day, being miserable, unfulfilled, and you give them a little bit of knowledge here and there. You make them feel a little bit better here and there. You let them know you don't have to be Christ. Christ died for you. But never forget, Rome killed that motherfucker. We put his head on a pike. We got it right there in the background, just so you know that you don't cross any lines. But just think about if all that money got channeled and people who really wanted to create art and cultivate consciousness that was going to help heal all the poison in people's soul. Think about how much good that could, like, our priorities are fucked up. Like, money is not our savior. Money is our servant. We're not taking it with us. If you can't put it on the immediate good that's in front of you and meeting the temporal needs of the people that are trying to do the work, then there's no purpose to it. There's no reason all of these churches should have all this money, all these private jets, all of these programs, all this fancy suits, but it's like all you're doing is you're making a way for your holy book to abandon its principles, but to morph into something that helps and is expedient for the culture, for the agenda of the larger culture. But if you really understood it, it's supposed to be counter. So I guess what I mean is somebody like you who's trying to do music, who's trying to do art, who's trying to look at the world and crystallize something that's beautiful or meaningful or enlightenment that helps guide to somebody. It shouldn't be the destiny of people like that to be begging for money. Well, it shouldn't be.
To that point, right? Man, while you were talking, it hit me earlier when Bongo and I were talking about how hard it is to get up and make money when you're a good person. You know why that is? Think of it like this. The last thing the casino wants you to do is have a big hand and dip with your chips. They're going to try to keep you in the casino. Yep. So when they look at your art, and it's an energy thing, I really believe that people that are on the shit I'm on can be banned. And I'm not saying there's a group of people that have said Soulajit, Surreal's not allowed to get on, but there's this energy about it where they know what I'm going to do with those resources. Yep. And it won't benefit the hypnosis that they've spent so many years crafting. I'm actually trying to liberate people from that. Same with Bongo, same with you, same with a lot. And that's why it's harder for us to get on than a cat like Lil Baby who can't even really rap, who isn't, in my opinion, like some of his shit's okay, but that ain't like terrible. But it's also
Don't worry,
not
he's canceling his shows because tickets aren't being sold.
It's not right, but that's what's going on with hip hop right now. People are fucking tired of that shit. So it's exciting, but I'm saying, to your point, you're right.
Donatello's gonna bring it back.
They make it hard for you because they want you to give up. They're like, they don't want you to try. Man, and you said something too that I want to put a flag in that I never thought of, bro. That's so crazy. And I don't know if you just came up with this now or if you've thought about it deeper. That the cross is there it's like a scare, it's a tactic to keep people in line. Like, look at the murder device. It's like showing, it might as well be a fucking, it would be the equivalent of an electric chair. Imagine going to a church and they're all wearing electric chairs around their neck. And you'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Dude, it's the compendium, because you said something like,
wild.
Like, oh, America and Christianity, it's fairly new. And it's like, nah, I get why you feel that way, and I get the point that you're making, but nah, it's not new. It's Rome. Right. Yeah. It's absolutely Rome.
It's the extension.
So Rome killed Jesus. Rome stopped being. Well, hold on. You're not gonna blame us. We'll get back to that. Hold on. Rome killed Jesus, the state. He was executed by the state. The Jews didn't have the legal authority to kill him. So the Roman state executed him, executed all of his followers, ceases to be a state, becomes a religion that starts molding the entire continent of Europe back into Rome, and then gets over on the other side of the continent and starts building Greek temples all over the place. Yeah. So it absolutely is not a new thing. Like, it's the same old game plan.
It's the remix.
Right. We are Rome.
P. did his remix.
Listen, we are
the best music.
We are, God is not here. We are filling the power vacuum. This is as close as you get. We want to wield the power of God without ever coming close to demonstrating the character of God. So when God shows up and is like, yo, this is my character, I don't want to stone these bitches. No. But didn't you kill a child for picking up sticks on the wrong day? You're gonna have to work that out on your own. That wasn't me. I understand you want me to take credit for it because some dude in a gown that's a kid toucher told you have to interpret it this way. But no. But I show up and look, I'm not trying to kill anybody. All of these people are evil, and I'm not even taking up my sword. I'm not trying to fix it from the inside. I didn't apply to be a Pharisee. I didn't apply to be in the Sanhedrin. I didn't try to take King Herod's spot and say, you know what? If we just voted in Jesus, we could really fix this system. We could reform it. I didn't do any of that. I showed up and said, look, the people in charge, they're all murderous psychopaths. All they want is power. They'll kill anybody in order to preserve it. And all we can do is peacefully have a revolution in ourselves. And the more that you cultivate that within yourself, you're gonna want to walk away. So it's absolutely, it is Rome by all accounts. It's totally corrupt. But if you talk, like I was arguing with some dude, you know how to do. I'm arguing with the dude on the internet, and he's telling me, he's like, Jesus did not break the Sabbath. Healing people is not breaking on the Sabbath. The Sabbath law is very clear. You don't work, your slaves don't work, your animals don't work. Healing is not considered work. And I told him back, I'm like, so it's really great that God made it abundantly clear that you should let your slaves rest. That needed to be addressed. But whether or not healing is considered work or not, he wasn't explicit on that, and it seems kind of important if you can be killed over it. But so what you're telling me is the character of your God is, I saw a child picking up sticks and I'm gonna kill him. I saw this man banging my wife, I'm gonna let it slide. That's a psychopathic cuck. Your God is Adam 22. You'll kill a kid for picking up sticks. You'll kill a kid for picking up sticks, but then you see some chick getting railed. It says in the law you have to stone her. She's an adulterer. It says right there, you commit adultery, you have to kill her, right? But he couldn't let go because of his programming. He had to keep it all within this same lane of like, no, picking up sticks. You know what he called? You'll get a kick out of this. He called picking up sticks open rebellion. It's
Wow.
like he knew not to pick up sticks.
Nice.
This is open rebellion. We had to take him off of here. And it's like, you think that's the heart of God? You think the heart of God is, bitch, you picked up a stick, I'm gonna murder you. And this you'll love this too. I was like, well, dude, how do you know if he wasn't picking up sticks to heal somebody? And he's like, that's preposterous. Yeah, because no medicine comes from plants.
Right.
He couldn't possibly have been gathering sticks to be like, I'm gonna make mom some herbs to ease her stomach. She's not feeling well. You know what I mean? But just the arrogance and the confidence to say, no, I know, and I have it all. I've got it all figured out.
Because it's not about spirit. Nothing in his argument has anything to do with God.
How we should live, or how we should treat each other, or how we should relate to this system that we're in. It's just about, no, I've read it and I understand it properly. And there's been hundreds of years of writing that substantiates my position. Yeah, but don't you want to use your consciousness that God gave you to look at this and try to make sense of it?
No.
Like, you can't justify
Basic instruction before leaving Earth.
All I need to know
got
is
it
were
right
they
here.
doing butt stuff. That's all I
That's
need
it.
to know. I don't care how they treat each other. I don't care none about
Let me
that.
get
If
that
they were doing butt
adrenaline.
stuff,
Let's
we
go.
dropping meteors on them. That's it.
I heard that butt stuff is good on brisket, boy.
It is actually that's one of the best brisket seasons. One of the best barbecue seasons you can buy for yourself is butt stuff. Y'all need to treat yourself to some
Not
of
the
that.
Leviticus version. But
Yeah, Levitical butt stuff.
That's got the Kansas City barbecue style.
That's right. Don't burn the shrimp.
Before we get out of here, we did do a long one today, so I appreciate everybody for sticking around and listening. We might cut it into some pieces just in case, but I definitely appreciate y'all listening. But before we go, the reason that the subtitle of today's show is "Nothing Matters and That's Okay" is because an Italian artist auctioned off an invisible sculpture for $18,000, literally made of nothing. He said it is a work that asks you to activate the power of imagination. Salvatore Garral, and he's done this several times already. He's made invisible sculptures. This is one of them is on display in the town square. You can see this right here. It's just there on the ground. There's this little piece of tape around it right there, and that's the invisible sculpture.
I respect that more
I
than
really
the girl
do.
doing the hot dogs.
I respect them both, but this right here is special.
Fire. Yeah.
This is special because the fine art community has been bastardizing what it means to be a creative for a very long time. And I understand it's money, it's investments, and all of that.
It's a hustle.
They've been gatekeeping the prosperity that can come from people being creative, and this guy has been able to hack it by selling people invisible sculptures. And that's not to say that you have to sell somebody an invisible sculpture. All I'm saying is, none of this shit matters.
Value's an illusion.
It is. We make it all up. We make all of this shit up as we go along. We create things and then we tie ourselves to those things. And we call it virtue. And we call it artistic integrity and all of this other shit. It doesn't fucking matter. Right? Yep. Especially if you're trying to get to the bread. I don't suggest you do anything that's going to stop you from sleeping at night. Because that's really all it comes down to. If you can do it and rest easy at night, then it kind of just is what it is. Nobody's getting hurt. Nobody, whatever creative path that you can carve out for yourself that allows you to keep your bills paid and affords you the possibility of avoiding anxiety, because we don't know for sure that the anxiety is ever going to go away. If you're scrounging in your couch pillows to go buy a can of beans, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to eat tomorrow? That's one type of anxiety. Next thing you know, you start making 10 grand a month. Oh my God, how am I going to keep this going? What if it stops? And then next thing you know, you're making 500-600 grand a year. Oh my God, what if the economy, the anxiety may never go away. Yeah. Your brain can just shift over to the next set of what ifs seamlessly. You think you're going to be fine with a certain number in your bank account, but that's just going to make you think about how long that's going to last and what if, and oh my God, my cost of living went up. And it may never go away. But if you can afford yourself at least the opportunity to circumvent some of that, get your bills paid, and live a life that you want to live, it may require you to get rid of all your fucks.
That's right, bro. I just was having a convo last night, and a friend of mine was over, and we were just talking about how frustrated I am with my career. And she was like, I wish you could see yourself the way I do. And I think, in a way, that's what that sculpture, or lack of sculpture, is kind of saying. It's like, you can be whatever you want to be. Like if you let go of how it's perceived.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? And that's like some real shit. Like I've been working on my craft for 30 years, bro, over 30 years. And somehow I'm the one that believes in me the least. I would probably venture to think y'all probably believe I should be successful more than I do on some level. And I think a lot of people at different, not just artists, I think people in general deal with that. And that's what I get like energetically from that statue. And it's a hustle. It's like a dope thing to say. Art can be invisible. You know what I mean? Like it's like a fuck you to art. It's all kinds of things.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Everything about it to me is powerful. And get whatever it is. It may not be the same thing, but this is a call to the creatives. Figure out what your invisible sculpture is and auction that shit off, babe. Fuck all the rules. Fuck everything. Talk about whatever you want to talk about in your. There's no rules to this shit. It doesn't matter what hip hop you think it requires of you. It doesn't matter what the color theory is. Like fuck all of that shit. Do your thing. Make it available for people to consume, and just keep working on it until you figure out and find the people who are going to resonate with it and pay you the price that you asked for it, because that's all that really matters. You deserve to have your bills paid. You deserve to at least attempt to exist in some sort of peace by farming your own creativity. You shouldn't necessarily have to go punch somebody's clock and be tied to somebody else's idea of what your life was worth. Fuck all of that. We selling invisible sculptures for the rest of the foreseeable future. That's how it's going down. That's how it's going down. And before we go, I just got one more thing I want to show on screen. If any of you get the opportunity in the next couple days or before the weekend, maybe we could talk a little bit about it next week. I want y'all to go. Well, Michael Jai White has a new movie that's coming out, but before you watch, I mean, I definitely suggest watching Michael Jai White's movies. He's a cool cat. But before you watch his movie, I want you to find a movie, and you know what? I'm not even going to tell you the title of it. I'm just going to play a little bit of the trailer. This is Bumba Clot Fair Use. Don't come at me with no sideways fuckery, YouTube.
They call him boss nigga.
They rode into a white man's town. Bringing black man's law. He's black. He's brutal. He's
black and brutal is kind of redundant, but
boss. Fred Williamson is boss nigga.
They call him boss nigga.
Yeah, I don't want to play the whole trailer because I don't want YouTube to freak out. But please, take the opportunity to watch Boss Nigga when you get the chance.
I just swore.
Y'all didn't hear it. I don't know. I think you can see it on the channel. I think I'm streaming on the channel. Hopefully everybody heard that. But I told you this Skype was it was acting real weird for me today, so I didn't get to share the screen. But hopefully y'all saw that on the YouTube, and I'll send y'all the trailer too so you can watch it directly. But this movie is called Boss Nigga. It has Fred Williamson and Derville Martin, two absolute OGs of blaxploitation cinema. So definitely, if you get an opportunity to watch that.
You had me at Boss Rogan. I'm all in. and I also want to shout, Doobie, I just want to let you know how much I love and appreciate your regulation and rebranding of blackness. Yes. You're a hero.
Yes.
And if you're not already following Doobie Howser Owns Blackness on Twitter, please do it. Please do it. Yeah. Please watch him single-handedly rebrand blackness for the good of mankind. You're doing the Lord's work, Doobie, and we appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Get in on the ground floor, man.
Yeah, it's important. He's saving the world from blackness by saving blackness from itself. That's what's happening here. So it needs to be rebranded desperately. So definitely follow Doobie and watch his rise to Twitter fame. It's inevitable. Elon Musk is going to be sending us residual checks here real soon, because the engagement farming is absolutely amazing. When you can go on the internet and find black people behaving badly and subsequently remove their blackness from them and give them demerits and tell them what they have to do and how much they have to pay to reinstate their blackness or become remelanated. There's not a whole lot on Twitter going on better than people being de-blacked for bad behavior. I love it. I absolutely love it. So we're gonna
With
get
the
more into that next
gavel
show.
gift too.
Yeah, yeah, the
It's
BT
a nice
gavel.
It's icing on the cake.
Yeah,
It's hop on threads, man. Don't miss the boat on that one, man. There a lot of people have dipped from Twitter.
yeah, we're gonna hop on there too, because I'm sure there's some people that need to be de-blacked. It's all, across all platforms. It's the Lord's work. So we're gonna get into that a little bit more on the next episode. We're gonna talk about the importance of de-blackening and the demerits that we handing out, and how we deal with these hobby horse and chalk demons. Until they pay their fines. That's what they are. This is the
Mayo
world you gotta
monkeys.
live in. Mayo monkeys, chalk demons, all of that good shit. So,
De-blackened catfish.
yeah, de-blacking. I'm saying we don't accept no bad behavior within blackness anymore. We're not doing that. If you're out in the street attacking white folks, yeah, you're getting demerits, bro. You're getting de-blacked. You're gonna have to pay some money, and then you're probably gonna have to recite an entire episode of Sanford and Son before it's all said and done. Like,
And watch the original European version.
yeah, that's just the type of shit that's going down over here. It's no joke. You will be punished. You will be punished. So, I appreciate y'all for making time, as always. This has been another excellent episode of the greatest think tank ever assembled,
Thanks
the
for
Cult of
having me.
Dangerous Gentlemen. Of course, brother, anytime. It was an excellent conversation, and I'm still torn on whether I want to watch The Sound of Freedom or not, but I think that's a good thing. Yeah, I think
I
that's
did
a
it. I
good
did
thing.
it for you. Don't do it.
No, I
It's
appreciate it.
PG-13, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah, just the sight of Jim Caviezel shedding tears while looking at Polaroids, like, that's enough for me. I almost don't need to see it. I've seen enough. But yeah, man, I'm definitely looking forward to the next link up. And until then, you guys enjoy the rest of the week, the rest of the evening, and I'm sure we'll be talking again soon. Much love to you, brothers. And this has been the Cult of Dangerous Gentlemen. I appreciate everybody for tuning in and being active in the chat. We love y'all, and we'll be talking to you soon. Peace.
Love to all parties, man.
Blessings.
Peace.
Have to be the quote-unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely.